This guy wants to break you, humiliate you, stomp you into the ground. Now what are you gonna do about it?
Terry Silver, the main villain of Karate Kid Part 3. The Karate Kid franchise has seen a huge resurgence with the popularity of the Cobra Kai series, and now's a great time to look at why Terry Silver rocks, and whether we might see him again in the future. I'm Ken Cole. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, and I look forward to your comments. The Karate Kid series is known in part for its memorable villains. Part 1 had Johnny and his Cobra Kai karate friends, and their evil teacher John Kreese. The second movie had Mr. Miyagi's former best friend Sato, and Sato's nephew Chozen. Part 3 brings back John Kreese, but introduces a brand new villain, John Kreese's best friend, Vietnam War buddy and Cobra Kai karate master, Terry Silver, played by Thomas Ian Griffith in his first movie role. Following the events of Karate Kid Part 2, where Kreese attacks Johnny in the All Valley Tournament parking lot, Kreese is broke and on the streets. Turns out attacking his own students was bad for business, and no one wants to take karate at Cobra Kai anymore. As Kreese hits rock bottom, he turns to his old friend, Terry Silver, who lives in a Frank Lloyd Wright mansion in the hills of Los Angeles. Terry is a fellow master of Cobra Kai karate, which he and Kreese seem to have learned during their time in the military. In fact, we learned that Terry Silver was the one who bankrolled Kreese's Cobra Kai dojo from the beginning.
I'll pay you that back rent as soon as I can.
Screw the rent. What, do you think I bought that place for the rent? I bought it for you.
Terry also feels indebted to Kreese for saving his life in Vietnam, and it seems that he'd do anything for Kreese.
I owe you, man.
You don't owe me anything.
Oh, bullshit. I don't owe you anything?
What about Vietnam, huh?
How many times did you save my ass?
Kreese tells Terry what happened with his dojo, and Terry vows to take full revenge on Daniel Miyagi.
When I'm finished with that kid, he'll be begging me to be his teacher. And you know what he's gonna learn from me? Pain in every part of his body and fear in every part of his mind.
So why is Terry Silver so amazing? Well, part of it is he's just a lot of fun. He's larger than life. He has a combination of skills and qualities that I'm pretty sure no human being has ever had while wearing a ponytail. He enjoys being evil so much. He's the only Karate Kid villain who has a whole musical theme written for him by composer Bill Conti. But also, he has a lot of qualities the movie never fully develops. Qualities that aren't over the top and make for a good, realistic villain in the Karate Kid universe. In fact, Terry Silver actually has a lot going for him. He's charismatic, good-looking, intelligent, extremely wealthy, has a taste for fashion and style. He's ambitious. He's a martial arts expert. He's a Vietnam veteran. He has excellent public presentation skills.
Honesty, compassion, and fair play.
Thank you all for coming.
He has excellent business and negotiation skills. He's a perfectionist.
Yeah, he's perfect.
Perfect.
He's persuasive. He's very effective at teaching. His employees seem reasonably satisfied working for him, even though he's making them do illegal things.
You know it.
And he appears to be loyal to his allies. Of course, even though he has a lot going for him, he's also a villain. In fact, he's a doozy of a villain, and he does a lot of bad things. For example, he's manipulative, craves revenge. Through his company Dynatox, he harms the environment through dumping chemical and nuclear waste.
What do you mean you can't dump it in Borneo? Who in Borneo knows what chloride sludge is?
He corrupts those around him, his friends, enemies, and employees.
Mr. Silver.
Lighten up, Margaret.
He encourages vices, example, Kreese and Tahiti.
You just have fun.
Go give Mamone and her girlfriend a squeeze for me. How do you know about Mamone?
I know.
He uses profanity.
Don't bullshit me.
He uses ethnic slurs. He emotionally manipulates others into becoming instruments of pain.
Okay, you got it?
He pledges full-time devotion to evil plans.
For the next few weeks, my business is strictly revenge.
Everything is in place, sir.
He delights in being petty.
Well, that's a nice little move. Mr. Miyagi teach you that?
Oh, no.
No, I didn't think so.
He lies to everyone.
John Kreese told me you had a lot of heart.
Oh, yeah?
He engages in conspiracy to commit crimes, including faking the death of his friend.
I buried John last week.
He's dead? What happened?
He bribes public officials and grand juries.
What else?
The grand jury, what do you intend to do about them?
Bribe him, as usual.
He negotiates evil deals in a bubble bath.
Well, I don't know if I can afford more than 35.
He breaks and enters into Miyagi's home. He breaks his agreements and promises.
Hey, where's that guy with my money?
He inflicts bodily harm on children, intends to inflict bodily harm on senior citizens. He enjoys watching people suffer. He sits menacingly in dark cars while puffing cigars and has an epic evil laugh. I think the only bad thing he doesn't do is kill someone. But actually, that's not Terry's style. He's much more intrigued by the petty things in life. I think it's just a lot more fun to pick on people. One great thing about Terry for fans of the Cobra Kai series is that he provides a lot of background and lore of the Cobra Kai school and fighting style. He was the one who bought the original Cobra Kai dojo so Kreese could teach karate. From Terry, we first learned Cobra Kai's catchphrase,
Cobra Kai. Say it! Cobra Kai. Never dies. Bet your ass.
We also learned the name of the man who might have been Kreese and Terry's sensei.
My master is Kim Sung-young of South Korea.
And of course, there's the Quicksilver method.
It comes in 2 parts and has 3 rules. I call it Quicksilver.
That's good.
You like that, huh? Rule number 1. A man can't stand. He can't fight. A man can't breathe. He can't fight. A man can't see. He can't fight.
Here we learn the Cobra Kai style in a way that was probably too brutal even for Kreese to teach. In fact, you can make a case that John Kreese, the ultimate baddie from Karate Kid 1, wouldn't be nearly as bad a person if it weren't for Terry Silver. At the beginning of part 3, Kreese has hit rock bottom, and he goes to Terry to return the dojo keys and give up. This could be a life-changing turnaround moment for John Kreese. But Terry Silver immediately tells him,
Hey, you're not listening to me. Come on, snap out of it.
and he sends him to Tahiti. Terry Silver has been motivating and enabling Kreese's bad behavior for a long time. To use a Star Wars analogy, if Kreese is the Darth Vader of the Karate Kid movies, then Terry Silver is the Emperor. Terry Silver is known for being an over-the-top movie villain. And yes, he can go over the top.
Oh, that means Cobra Kai karate! John Kreese's karate!
But people forget that for a good chunk of the movie, Terry's actually pretty restrained.
Look, I got a good book on sweep techniques. I'll drop it off for you sometime, okay?
Great.
Especially when he's conning Daniel and Miyagi.
I was hoping you would have killed him.
No, that's not what karate's about. It's for defense.
Yeah, I know you're right.
In fact, he comes off as so sincere. Both Miyagi and Daniel totally buy it.
My teacher sends his apologies for John Kreese's dishonorable actions.
Accept apology.
When Terry is first manipulating Daniel into becoming his student, you kind of wonder, does Terry Silver have some good in him? In this movie, he doesn't. But I think the best part of the movie is Terry Silver's transition from fake friend to evil mentor that corrupts Daniel. He has a lot of parallels to Mr. Miyagi. They're both karate masters. They're both effective teachers. Miyagi was a veteran of World War II, and Terry was a veteran of Vietnam. They both suffered trauma while serving their country.
War does something to a man. You had to have been there to know what I mean.
Have been. Don't know.
For me, one of the most interesting moments is when Terry Silver breaks into Miyagi's house and snoops through his keepsakes. There's a moment when he sees Miyagi's Medal of Honor, and he has this look of awe and jealousy combined. Like America recognized Miyagi as a hero, but passed over Vietnam vets like Terry Silver and John Kreese. And it's a shame the movie never really develops any of this, because Terry Silver really is the anti-Miyagi. Mr. Miyagi is famous for his sayings.
You trust quality, what you know, not quantity. For person with no forgiveness in heart, living even worse punishment than death. Lie become truth only if person wanna believe it.
But Terry Silver has a few of his own sayings which kind of ring true.
There are 3 things that make a champion. The 3 Ds. Desire, devotion, and discipline.
Everybody has a right to his opinion. Extreme situations require extreme measures.
My favorite that I've remembered my entire life is
Nothing's for free.
because it's absolutely 100% true. Of course, a lot of the credit for Terry Silver goes to actor Thomas Ian Griffith. According to a 1993 interview in Black Belt magazine, Griffith had been starring on and off Broadway when he was cast as Terry Silver. But he'd been cast for his acting ability. The producers didn't know that he was a martial artist. It was only when Pat Johnson saw Griffith's skills that they started rewriting the script to make Terry Silver a martial artist, and presumably an evil karate mentor to Daniel. It seems like Thomas Ian Griffith may have single-handedly saved the character of Terry Silver. And he gave a great performance. I mean, how many actors could sit in a bubble bath, tell his henchman on a golden phone to dump chloride sludge, then light up a cigar with his secretary right there, tell her to bribe the DA, and negotiate a deal for 50% ownership of his dojos with karate's bad boy, and make it all work? Two quick notes about that scene. Notice that before, Terry promised Kreese 100% ownership of the new dojos.
I bought 20 locations today. Yours, 100%.
But in this bubble bath scene, he negotiates 50% to Mike Barnes.
You fight as hard as you negotiate?
Harder.
You got your 50%.
And I get that in writing.
By noon today.
So is he really the best friend to Kreese that everyone says he is? Or is he going to screw Kreese over? Or is he going to screw Mike Barnes over? Also, notice the name of the DA that Terry wants to bribe.
Who's the DA on the case?
Mr. Cole.
That's my last name. But in the Cobra Kai series, that's also the last name of Tom Cole, who is Daniel's dealership rival. Coincidence? I thought The Karate Kid was done decades ago, but I've been blown away by Cobra Kai. It's a great show. I never would have guessed that we'd have The Karate Kid now in 2020. It's also brought up the potential of the return of Terry Silver. So will he return to Cobra Kai? Will he make an appearance in the series? I'm not sure, but I think it's likely. As I'm recording this, we're just days away from season 3 releasing. The first 2 seasons have explicitly mentioned or visually shown Terry Silver. Kreese drops a lot of hints in season 2 about Terry Silver. What's interesting to me is that all the characters in the Karate Kid movies were pretty self-contained to their movies. For instance, Sato doesn't have any relation to Johnny or Kreese. And so Cobra Kai makes it possible to have Terry Silver interact with Johnny. And that's fascinating because we know Johnny has no clue who Terry Silver is. So if he shows up, it's going to be a great surprise. And I think the potential is limitless. He's a person with infinite resources, he's very cunning, and he is directly connected to the Cobra Kai lore. So, you know, the sky's the limit, and I'm just very excited that the producers, they've done such a great job of being true to the characters of the original story, that if they bring Terry Silver into the series, that they will write a part for him that is truly worthy of the character. So let's all see what happens. Thank you for watching, and again, I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments, and be sure to subscribe to my channel.
Aside!
Now the real pain begins, Danny boy.
Terry Silver, the villain of Karate Kid Part 3, has many fans, and I'm so glad to have heard from so many of you in the comments of my previous video, Why Terry Silver Rocks, which you can check out by clicking the link. And today, I want to take a deeper look into the character and find out what Terry Silver wants, which, spoiler, could be important in Cobra Kai the series because it's very heavily implied that Terry will show up in season 4. I'm Ken Cole. Be sure to subscribe and let me know what you think about Terry Silver in the comments. A lot of you have asked, why does Terry Silver, this multi-millionaire with a successful business, just drop everything to get revenge on a kid and an old man for someone else? That's silly. Or I've also heard this a lot. Terry Silver must be the best friend anyone could ever have. Look at what he does for Kreese. He spends so much time and money to get revenge for Kreese. So is this true? Is Terry Silver doing everything for the honor of John Kreese? And would Terry be the best friend you or I could ever have? In order to answer these questions, we need to take a look at what Terry Silver wants, and then we'll know why Terry does what he does. So what does Terry Silver want in life? Well, from watching the character in Karate Kid 3, we notice a few things. First, and this is big, he wants to be in absolute control in every situation. We see this in a number of ways. For one, He craves status. Using his wealth, Terry has elevated himself to a would-be aristocrat. He has at least one mansion, which is a Maya-inspired palace. He has an entourage of European live-in servants who do his bidding. Margaret, his personal assistant, coordinates his illegal activities, but sets an elitist tone, feigning disgust at Terry's methods,
Mr. Silver.
Lighten up, Margaret.
and scoffing at bad-mannered Mike Barnes.
So what do you think?
Oh, he's obnoxious.
Milos, his butler, does butlery things like opening the door for Kreese
Ah, Mr. Chris, good morning. What a surprise. Some coffee.
and getting Terry's robe in the bath.
Milos, my blue pinstripe.
But he also handles the paperwork for Terry's illegal operations in his company Dynatox.
Mr. Silver?
What?
Plutonium deal?
Whenever we see his servants, they're working hard to please him and have things ready the instant he demands them.
Sir?
Or the magazines I ordered.
Right here, sir?
The one time we see an employee maybe have second thoughts about dumping toxic waste, Terry immediately puts him or her in their place.
Don't bullshit me. What do you mean you can't dump it in Borneo? Who in Borneo knows what chloride sludge is? Just do it.
So we're starting to see a controlling pattern in his professional life and a desire for power. The first time we see Terry, he's sparring wearing a Cobra Kai gi, which, by the way, we've never seen Kreese practicing karate or sparring in his spare time. So Terry's an active, practicing Cobra Kai martial artist. He's sparring against his hired thugs, who really are no match for Terry. Maybe Terry keeps bad fighters around so he's in control and wins every time. We also see how he enjoys control and power in his personal relationships. His friendship with Kreese is quite interesting because Kreese used to be Terry's superior officer, his captain in Vietnam. And apparently Kreese saved Terry's life multiple times.
How many times did you save my ass? I don't know. I lost count.
So in Vietnam, Kreese had the power and the friendship. And while Terry still at least pays lip service to that, it's very clear that the dynamic in the relationship has reversed. Terry now has all the power. At least in Karate Kid 3, the only thing Kreese had in his life was his failed Cobra Kai dojo, which Terry owned. In fact, Kreese had been paying rent to Terry.
Here are the dojo keys.
What are you talking about?
I'll pay you that back rent as soon as I can.
Now that he's broke, John Kreese has to give back the dojo keys to Terry, and he isn't in a position to challenge Terry on anything. Watch carefully in all of their scenes together, and you'll see that Terry's the one calling the shots in the friendship. And Kreese just goes along with Terry every time. Which is very interesting because John Kreese is such a menacing presence in these movies, except when he's interacting with Terry Silver. And that fits the pattern of Terry wanting control over everything. He's very happy being friends with John Kreese because, in part, Kreese won't challenge Terry's need for control. So what else does Terry Silver want? Well, he wants to inflict pain on his enemies. If you're his enemy, he wants you
To experience pain. Pain, 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 pain. Now the real pain begins, Danny boy.
I think he says that word more than any other in the movie. Along with his need for control, Terry loves to set up elaborate schemes to manipulate people, without them knowing it.
Excuse me, Mr. Silver, you can't make me do something I don't want to do.
Danny. From the moment you met me, I've been making you do things you didn't want to do.
He loves to create many steps to his schemes, and to watch them being pulled off perfectly.
Remember the game plan. First you win a point, then you lose a point. Keep the score 0-0. Pulverize him for the full 3 minutes. Then in sudden death, you get the point, we win. I want him to experience pain.
He's a perfectionist
Perfect.
and delights in his carefully laid plans paying off. He also gets a thrill from doing illegal things and getting into trouble. And not just in his Dynatox business. For example, the nightclub scene with Daniel. This is extra fun for Terry because it's a manipulation scheme to con the creeper guy into provoking Daniel to punch him in the face, combined with the thrill of getting away from security. This is a new experience for Daniel, but it's pretty clear that Terry has done this before. He knows right when they have to get away.
Come on, we gotta get out of here.
And we briefly see Terry almost turning into an adrenaline-pumped kid.
Oh man, that was beautiful. You didn't even think. Something got in your way, bang, down it went.
He gets such a rush from Daniel breaking the guy's nose and enjoys it so much.
Technique and killer instinct. You got it all now, kid.
Maybe this is the type of fun he and Kreese used to have back in the day, possibly as part of a Cobra Kai initiation with other soldiers. So in light of all this, why does Terry Silver put his life and his successful business on hold just to get revenge on a kid and an old man? Is it just because of devotion to John Kreese and he wants to do right by his Cobra Kai friend? Maybe a little. And I think we non-villain people want to give Terry the benefit of the doubt. We want to give him some redeeming qualities. But I think we also need to look at what Terry Silver really wants in life. Total control over every situation, absolute power in his relationships.
You're going to Tahiti. Now.
Causing pain to his enemies, getting a thrill from doing illicit things, and pulling off elaborate manipulation schemes to perfection. I think it's pretty clear that Terry's mainly doing this because with Daniel and Miyagi, Kreese has brought to Terry the shiniest, most gleaming toy that Terry's had in a very long time. He gets to indulge in everything he wants to do. After all, he's rich and probably bored at Dynatox. Listen to how Terry first tells Kreese about his plans.
What's his name, Miyagi, and that punk kid? I'm gonna get them for what they did to you. They made you suffer. So I'm gonna make them suffer, and suffer, and suffer, and when I think they've suffered enough, then I start with the pain.
Look, Terry, you don't have to do that.
Don't have to, I want to.
Kreese even seems a little hesitant, but Terry insists because it's going to be a lot of fun for him. And why wouldn't it be? He gets to engage in deception, a multi-level manipulation scheme where he causes direct pain via hired thugs, creates a fake friend persona to corrupt one of his enemies, Daniel, while using the corrupted Daniel to inflict pain on Miyagi. He's controlling them in a 3D chess game they don't even know they're playing. When Terry asks Kreese for any special requests, listen to what happens.
Make his knuckles bleed.
Hey. Hey, I like that! Oh, I like that, Johnny! I'm gonna use that!
He loves this so much because it's hilariously brutal and petty. And it could be the icing on the cake, the denouement of his complex manipulation scheme. In fact, Terry engineers everything about his interaction with Daniel to eventually make Daniel's knuckles bleed. Everything from the fake wardrobe, the beater truck, the fake fight with Mike Barnes, loaning the book on sweep techniques, offering Daniel classes, and yes, the Quicksilver method with the wooden pipe dummy, and even Mike Barnes' picture on the back of the wooden face, all of it was specifically designed to eventually make Daniel's knuckles bleed. Look at Terry's reaction when he sees that his complex plan has been executed to perfection.
It's blood.
He can barely contain his glee. Great moment from Thomas Ian Griffith. This is the stuff Terry Silver lives for. So we can see that Terry Silver is mainly out for himself. He's perfectly happy treating everything and everyone as a tool to get what he wants. Where does this leave his friendship with Kreese? Best friends? Well, I think if Terry can be a friend to anyone, he's a friend to Kreese. But we have to remember that Terry wants control and power. And even though he doesn't say it out loud, it seems like Terry thinks of himself as better than Kreese.
Mr. Terry Silver!
We can see this at the tournament when Terry takes the stage to give a speech about the new chain of Cobra Kai dojos, which supposedly belong to Kreese.
I've always lived my life by the rule, if you get, you give.
He pays some lip service to Kreese, but it's really all about Terry.
Together, we are about to open a chain of Cobra Kai dojos, where young people can come and learn the same values I've learned.
Also, when Miyagi fights Kreese, Terry actually smiles as Kreese is getting his butt kicked by Miyagi, and it doesn't faze Terry at all. In fact, he just mocks Miyagi and says,
Come on, little man. Let's see how good you really are.
So Terry thinks of himself as the superior martial artist and the true test for Miyagi. Also, after Miyagi knocks him into the mirror, Terry becomes enraged and says he, not John Kreese, is going to teach at Cobra Kai.
You think this is the end of it all, man? I'm gonna open Cobra Kai dojos all over this valley! Hell, I might even teach for free!
Until he remembers Kreese as an afterthought.
All that means Cobra Kai karate! John Kreese's karate!
What does all this mean for future appearances of Terry Silver on the Cobra Kai series? Well, from what we know of Terry's character, I'm sure he'll love to find creative ways to hatch evil schemes and hurt his enemies in every possible way. Terry has a lust for total control and power, so he'd likely want to toy with Miyagi-Do before crushing them, and possibly gain control over Cobra Kai, which is now famous again in the Valley. Maybe we finally see Terry's plan for a chain of Cobra Kai dojos? Regarding Kreese, well, Kreese appears to call him at the end of season 3, which means they're still on good terms. But calling Terry could be a double-edged sword for Kreese. If Kreese unleashes Terry, letting the Cobra out of the bag, so to speak, Terry might take things in directions even Kreese doesn't expect. I'm sure Terry would be very effective and would delight in helping Kreese take down his enemies, as long as Kreese doesn't challenge Terry. If Terry starts to take more control over Cobra Kai, it'll be interesting to see if Kreese goes along with it or not, and what that might mean for their friendship. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like, and let me know what you think about Terry Silver in the comments. Did I miss anything about Terry Silver? I'll see you next time.
I have eyes on the target.
What's the status on that air support?
No response.
Terry Silver has not only appeared in Karate Kid 3, he's also started to make appearances in the series Cobra Kai. This video is the first in a 2-part look at Terry Silver over the first 3 seasons of Cobra Kai. We're going to discover all the new info we've learned about Terry from before Karate Kid 3 and about the events following Karate Kid 3. I'm Ken Cole. Be sure to subscribe and like, and I look forward to your comments. First off, this video contains spoilers from the first 3 seasons of Cobra Kai, so definitely watch those on Netflix before watching this video. Also, be sure to check out my other videos on Terry Silver, which you can find linked here and in the description. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go through everything we know about Terry's life so far, from 1968 until present day, which means we're going to start in season 3. Vietnam, 1968. John Kreese has been deployed and receives a letter from his girlfriend. It's then that we see Kreese's friend, a fellow soldier with a ponytail and a cocky attitude, say,
Johnny.
But then he calls for someone named Twig.
Hey, Twig, come look at this.
As we'll later find out, Twig is a young Terry Silver, played by Nick Marini. Right off the bat, we see that Terry doesn't like the name Twig.
You can call me that?
Yeah, maybe get a little muscle on the tree branches and we'll talk.
Terry comes off as younger and less confident, the greenest of the group, but he seems to look up to the other 2 guys. Next, Kreese gets called in to see the captain about training for a special mission.
Because I'm forming a team. We'll work out a CCN.
Which will include Terry and the ponytail guy. The captain says he'll train them in hand-to-hand combat.
So I learned Tang Soo Do during the Korean War under Master Kim Il-sung. You'll learn the same.
Next, we see Terry watching Kreese spar with the captain. After Kreese loses to the captain, and all 3 learn the lesson of no mercy.
And no mercy!
Terry says he's ready for the mission.
Are we ready or not?
Yes, sir.
And we see Terry being supportive of Kreese after the fight. Next, we see Terry and Kreese in the midst of the special mission. Terry's in charge of calling in air support,
No response.
while Kreese has to detonate a bomb that Ponytail has placed.
All right, we're live.
Suddenly, Terry's comm system erupts in static, alerting the enemy to their presence. The captain tries to get Kreese to detonate the bomb, which would kill the Ponytail guy. Kreese refuses, and they're all captured.
Oh, son of a bitch, Kreese.
When they execute Ponytail, Terry starts freaking out.
Oh, God! It's dead because of me! It's all my fault! Oh, God! Shut your goddamn mouth, Silver!
Now we know Twig is Terry Silver. So this was a very traumatic moment for both Terry and Kreese. And what's interesting is that Terry's overcome with this feeling that everything's his fault. Now we move forward in time to 1969, where Terry, Kreese, and the captain are at a POW camp in North Vietnam. Here, the captured soldiers are made to fight each other to the death. Terry and Kreese talk to each other while watching. Here, Terry again says,
It's my fault, Johnny. Jesus Christ, they're gonna kill us all.
Shut up. The only thing you gotta worry about right now is survival. Besides, it's not your fault we're in here.
It's fine.
Before the captain butts in and says,
Well, you're right about one thing, Kreese. It is your fault we're in here.
and about Terry,
He's not gonna survive this.
so the captain apparently thinks that Terry's not much of a survivor. When the victor in the deathmatch returns, he's in shock.
I had to do it. You saw.
Then Terry asks him,
How deep is that pit, man?
so Terry's very much preoccupied with his own potential fate. Next, the guards pick the captain to fight. Then for his opponent, they pick Terry, who seems to have a panic attack, before Kreese offers to fight in Terry's place.
I'll go.
As the fight between the captain and Kreese over a pit of snakes comes to an end, air support arrives, and Kreese gives his captain
No mercy.
Then Kreese lets out the POWs, and Terry gives him a big hug and says,
I owe you, man. You saved my ass. Anything you need, I'm there for you. Your whole life. You hear me, Johnny? Your whole life. I owe you.
So that's everything we know from the Vietnam flashbacks in Season 3. After these events in 1969, we know from Karate Kid 3 that Kreese saves Terry's life again multiple times.
How many times did you save my ass?
I don't know. I lost count.
They started the Cobra Kai fighting style. Kreese was 3-time karate champion from 1970 to 1972. And after the war, Terry became wealthy by founding Dynatox to take care of all your toxic waste disposal needs.
Look at this. 10 years ago, nuclear was the preferred waste. You could dump it anywhere. Now everybody's a detective.
Then at some point before 1979, Terry bought Kreese his own Cobra Kai karate dojo, which was doing gangbusters business, until a couple of visitors showed up. The next events we know about Terry's life take place in 1985, which should be familiar to anyone who's seen Karate Kid 3. Let's go ahead and speed through these events.
Hey! Yes!
You're going to Tahiti.
What about those two jerks?
Pain!
Knuckles bleed.
I'm gonna use it!
Mike Barnes.
What do you mean you can't dump it in Borneo?
The grand jury.
Bribe him.
My master is Kim Sung-young of South Korea.
I'm sorry, what's your name?
Terry Silver.
Yeah, Terry Silver.
Let him up, punk.
See it.
I'm opening the Cobra Kai dojo again.
A man can't stand, breathe, see. He can't fight.
This guy wants to break you.
We gotta get out of here.
Danny.
You can't make me fight.
Yeah, let him kick your ass.
Let's see how good you really are.
You think this is the end of it all, man?
Terry Silver!
If you get, you give.
Now the real pain begins, Danny boy.
Get the point!
After those events of 1985, we jump forward to 2018, which is when the first season of Cobra Kai takes place. The first time we hear of Terry Silver is when Johnny goes to the All Valley Committee to ask permission for his dojo to be in the tournament.
Therefore, we, the All Valley Committee of 1985, issue a lifetime ban on Cobra Kai for the unethical and unsportsmanlike conduct shown by senseis Terry Silver, John Kreese, and their student Mike Barnes.
So Terry Silver has helped earn Cobra Kai a lifetime ban.
Mr. Lawrence, what is your relationship to this Terry Silver?
Ma'am, I have no idea who that even is.
Here we learn that Johnny doesn't know who Terry Silver is, which makes sense because even though Terry owned the dojo, he seemed to be pretty hands-off and let Kreese run the business and pay rent. Now we jump to the following summer of 2019, when Kreese has a heart-to-heart with Johnny, who wonders if Kreese's stories are true.
Was any of it true? Afghanistan, Panama, trip to Tahiti.
Here we learn that Terry Silver likely offered Kreese a job after the events of Karate Kid 3, which Kreese says he turned down.
One of my war buddies, he offered me a job. But I felt like it was a handout.
Then Daniel levels with Miyagi-Do students and gives them a recap of his defection to Cobra Kai in 1985.
What did I do? I joined Cobra Kai.
And here we see Thomas Ian Griffith's Terry Silver on the series for the first time in flashbacks. And these events were so shameful for Daniel, he hadn't even told Sam about them.
You never told me about any of this.
It's not something I'm proud of, Sam.
Sometime later, Kreese puts up his classic karate champion photo from the movie series in Johnny's office.
Yourself right at home, huh?
And we learn the photo
Buddy of mine took that photo.
may have been taken by Terry Silver.
Yeah, it's nice. I got a class to run.
Fast forward past Kreese's fight with Johnny and Daniel, and we see a bruised Kreese look at a photo of Ponytail Guy and Terry Silver. Then Kreese picks up the phone and calls someone.
Hey. Long time.
Which hopefully means we'll see Terry again really soon in season 4. And now that we've recapped all the Terry Silver info from Cobra Kai, in part 2, we'll take a look at what all this info might mean for the character of Terry Silver and his likely future appearance in Cobra Kai. So stay tuned, be sure to subscribe and like, and let me know what you think in the comments. Did I miss anything? See you next time.
I owe you, man. You saved my ass. Anything you need, I'm there for you.
Terry Silver has now been confirmed to appear in Cobra Kai Season 4. I'm Ken Cole, and this is the second in a 2-part look into the character of Terry Silver in the Cobra Kai series. Definitely check out Part 1 and my previous videos on Terry Silver, which I'll link here and in the description. Today, we're going to look deeper into the information we learned from Part 1, how it relates to the Terry Silver we already know, and what it might mean for the character now that Thomas Ian Griffith will be back to play Terry in Cobra Kai Season 4. So please subscribe and like, and as always, I look forward to hearing from you in the comments. And like Part 1, there will be spoilers for all 3 seasons of Cobra Kai, so definitely watch the whole series on Netflix first if you want to avoid spoilers. In the first part, we went chronologically through the events shown in Cobra Kai about Terry's life all the way up until the present. So what do those events tell us? First, notice that the Vietnam sequences take place in 1968 and 1969, before Kreese won the US Army Karate Championships from 1970 through 1972. That's a pretty high achievement for Kreese over multiple years. So the Season 3 flashbacks take place before the glory days of Kreese and Terry's Cobra Kai. And there's probably a lot we still don't know about how Cobra Kai started. The Vietnam sequences show us that Terry wasn't always confident, cocky, and in control, as he appears in 1985 in Karate Kid 3. Actually, they show he was once the opposite. He was teased a bit for being scrawny, and he didn't like being called Twig.
You can call me that?
Yeah, maybe get a little muscle on the tree branches and we'll talk.
And looked up to Kreese and the Ponytail character. In fact, Ponytail seems to have some of the traits of the 1985 Terry Silver, including, of course, the ponytail, the cocky attitude,
Hey, tell her to send one for me, would you?
and calling his friend
Johnny.
Hey! Johnny!
Young Terry's lack of confidence is also evident during the special mission. Terry seems nervous when his radio isn't working. And when it makes noise, he curses out loud, which may have helped to blow their cover. Later, when Ponytail is shot, Terry panics and uncontrollably says it's his fault.
It's all my fault, oh God! Shut your goddamn mouth, Silver!
So we're seeing a pattern where Terry can't keep calm or handle himself in dangerous situations that are out of his control. In my previous video, What Terry Silver Wants, we saw that a big character trait of 1985 Terry Silver is his need for control in every situation. So for younger Terry, who's experiencing these tragic survival situations, these events are even more traumatic because he can't seem to handle being in situations where he doesn't have control. In fact, he completely breaks down emotionally or has a verbal outburst.
It's all my fault, oh God!
The 1985 Terry seemed almost invulnerable, mainly because he had built wealth, status, mastery of martial arts, and personal manipulation tactics that assured him control over almost anyone he encountered. However, these flashbacks in Cobra Kai show that behind it all, Terry has at least one big weakness. If he loses control of a situation, he may start to panic or have an emotional outburst. We actually see this in the 1985 Terry Silver when he loses to Miyagi. After Miyagi mocks him, he has a raging outburst.
You think this is the end of it all, man? I'm gonna open Cobra Kai dojos all over this valley!
And refusing to admit his defeat. Back in those Vietnam survival situations, all involving other people in the same boat, you'll notice that Terry's statements are kinda self-focused. He's either blaming himself...
It's my fault, Johnny. Jesus Christ, they're gonna kill us all. I had to do it.
...or worried about himself.
How deep is that pit, man?
As opposed to Kreese, who's thinking about the whole situation and his fellow soldiers.
Come there and come on, you're the ranking officer.
This matches what we know of 1985 Terry, where he's mainly thinking about and in love with himself.
Oh.
In my previous videos, we've seen that in the 1985 Terry-Kreese friendship, Terry has everything together in life and has the upper hand. In these late 60s Vietnam flashbacks, we see the dynamic between Terry and Kreese has reversed from 1985. There are even scenes that mirror each other. In 1985, a calm Terry tells Kreese to get it together.
It's been 9 months since I've had a student walk through my doors.
Hey, you're not listening to me. Come on, snap out of it.
In 1969 Vietnam, a calm Kreese tells Terry to get it together.
Hey, get your shit together, all right? Look at me.
I think this John Kreese-Terry Silver dynamic could be one of the most interesting things to watch going forward, especially considering Terry's need for control. In the Vietnam flashbacks, we appear to see a turning point in Terry's character from timid and nervous to more confident about what he wants. After air support arrives and the danger to Terry has passed, Terry hugs a broken Kreese who fought a death match in his place. A very similar hug to 1985 Terry. Terry speaks to him very confidently, saying,
I owe you, man. You saved my ass. Anything you need, I'm there for you.
Notice that he's insistent to the point that Kreese doesn't have any choice in the matter.
Your whole life. You hear me, Johnny? Your whole life.
Very unlike his Twig persona. And it's here that we see glimmers of the 1985 Terry Silver, very determined about what he wants. Then we jump ahead to 2018, where we learn about the fallout from Terry's handiwork with Daniel and Miyagi in the 1985 tournament. It's interesting that the 1985 committee actually gave a lifetime ban to Cobra Kai, considering Terry Silver had just purchased and donated the permanent home of the All Valley Championships.
I would like to thank a new patron of ours for the purchase and donation of the permanent home of the All Valley Championships. Ladies and gentlemen, the president of Dynatox Industries, Mr. Terry Silver.
Maybe after losing to Daniel and Miyagi, Terry withdrew his donation in disgust and abandoned the All Valley organization, possibly never knowing or even caring that Cobra Kai was banned. It's also interesting that after all the hype about a chain of Cobra Kai dojos for Kreese,
Together, we are about to open a chain of Cobra Kai dojos.
Terry seemingly gave up on that and just offered Kreese a job that he turned down.
One of my war buddies, he offered me a job, but I felt like it was a handout.
That is, assuming Kreese was telling Johnny the whole truth.
Some of his stories don't add up.
And that Terry successfully evaded the grand jury.
The grand jury, what do you intend to do about them?
Which, by the way, the bribable district attorney on the 1985 case was Willie Cole.
Who's the DA on the case?
Mr. Cole.
Oh, good. Let's invite Willie to dinner Tuesday night.
No relation to me, but possibly related to Tom Cole, who is Daniel's car dealership rival. If Tom Cole is related to the corrupt Willie Cole, that means Terry Silver might be in a position to directly hurt Daniel's dealership business, which raises some interesting questions about the events involving Doyona and Tom Cole almost putting Daniel out of business in season 3.
Christmas came early, Danny boy.
Does something seem familiar?
Now the real pain begins, Danny boy.
As for Daniel, he's focused a lot in this series on John Kreese being the ultimate Cobra Kai bad guy.
You don't know the history here. John Kreese and Cobra Kai were the embodiment of everything this tournament stands against. And this guy...
But he hasn't said much at all about Terry Silver.
What did I do? I joined Cobra Kai. I learned to strike first.
This is odd, because even though Kreese occasionally threatened Daniel and had a shattering run-in with Miyagi, Kreese really didn't have much direct interaction with Daniel. On the other hand, Terry Silver had a sustained, twisted personal relationship with Daniel. Terry cultivated a fake friendship, played warped mind games on Daniel,
Technique and killer instinct. You got it all now, kid.
got him to betray Mr. Miyagi,
Just don't give me a hard time about it, all right? Okay, you got it?
and he physically tortured Daniel through the guise of the Quicksilver method. If any one person in Cobra Kai could have permanently traumatized Daniel, it was Terry Silver.
Yo, I'm afraid! I'm afraid of him, all right?
As we learned from Sam,
You never told me about any of this.
It's not something I'm proud of, Sam.
it's something that he's even kept hidden from his own kids. It'll be interesting to see how the adult Daniel reacts to seeing Terry Silver again for the first time. What else do we know? Well, after watching the first 3 seasons of Cobra Kai, we can now conclusively say that Terry Silver is the father of not just Tori and Miguel, but he's the father of every single character on the show without exception. Just kidding. I have no clue if Terry's the father of anyone on this show. The closest thing I've seen about that within the show is when Carmen tells Johnny about her ex-husband in season 1.
Where are you guys from originally?
Ecuador.
Oh, why'd you leave?
I got married at 18. After I became pregnant with Miguel, I learned the truth about my husband's job. Let's just say he was a very bad man. I had to get far away from him.
Could Carmen's ex-husband and Miguel's father actually be Terry Silver? Given Terry's tendency to target developing countries for toxic waste disposal,
What do you mean you can't dump it in Borneo?
and maybe needing to run from the feds, could Terry have married 18-year-old Carmen while living in Ecuador and fathered Miguel? Could the horrible truth about her ex-husband's job be that he was destroying the environment?
I learned the truth about my husband's job. Let's just say he was a very bad man.
I'm honestly not sure about this one. I think it's a wait and see kind of thing. The last thing we learn is when Kreese looks at the photo of him, Ponytail, and Terry. He picks up the phone and calls probably Terry and says,
"Long time."
So apparently it's been a while since Kreese and Terry talked, and they still seem to be on good terms. And it looks like Kreese wants to enlist Terry's help to defeat Miyagi-Do and Eagle Fang. But even if they haven't spoken in a while, has Terry already been aware of Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do's resurgence in the valley? The hardest part will be waiting for season 4 to find out what happens. But in the meantime, I'd love to hear from you in the comments, and please like and subscribe. What are your thoughts? What do you think about Terry Silver? Are you looking forward to him coming back? Let me know. See you next time. Terry Silver has made his first modern-day appearance on Cobra Kai through the new teaser trailer for season 4. I'm Ken Cole, and I am super excited that we finally get to see Terry Silver again after so many years. And what I want to do today is take a really in-depth look at this promo to see if there's any information in it that we can use to determine how Terry might appear in the series, what characteristics he has, and what we could expect to see from Terry Silver in season 4. Now, if you haven't seen them, check out my previous videos on Terry Silver where I go into a lot of detail about the character, why he's such an amazing character, and also how he's appeared in Cobra Kai and the entire timeline up until now. So let's go ahead and watch this amazing promo again together, and then I'll catch you up on the flip side.
Man can't stand, you can't fight. A man can't breathe, you can't fight. A man can't see, you can't fight.
Extreme situations require extreme measures.
Okay, so we have a lot to talk about. Now, the first thing that pops out to me is the lighting. We have this very stark figure, this outline, this figure in silhouette. So we can't see who it is. We don't know who it is. There really is almost nothing defining about that figure. And this figure is enshrouded in this hazy, diffuse lighting. So it's almost like he's in a fog, which is exactly perfect for Terry Silver because he's someone who likes to operate in the shadows. He doesn't like to reveal to people his true intentions and who he really is. So this is the type of shot I think Terry Silver would really like. There's someone there, you don't know who it is, and you don't know what he's up to. The whole mood of the lighting points to the possibility that maybe Terry knows a lot more about the events of Cobra Kai that anyone knows, even Kreese. He's very mysterious. You don't know quite what he's up to, and I think the lighting does a really good job of showing that. The next aspect of the lighting is that you have this single light that's above his head. And that, to me, indicates that this could be on a stage or at a major sporting event. That's the type of lighting you'd see, a strong overhead light that almost seems to communicate to the audience that the real show is starting. This is an event, pay attention, this is big. Another thing you'll notice is if you look at the silhouette, you can see that Terry's wearing a suit. So this means that he still has a sense of style and fashion. You know, this also probably indicates that he still has money, that he's still rich, which will be interesting because that means he has probably limitless resources to torment his enemies going forward in Cobra Kai. And another thing we can see, especially as he moves his head around, is that he has gray hair, silver hair now. With a ponytail, he still has that ponytail. So we know that that may be related to the ponytail character we saw in the flashbacks in season 3. But overall, it's such an iconic part of his character. I'm so glad they kept it around. And I am glad that Terry Silver now has a silver ponytail. I was kind of always hoping that would happen. Now, another thing that hits me is that he is standing with his back to the camera. And if you remember back in Karate Kid 3, Thomas Ian Griffith did such a great job with physicality for the character. And one of the things that this character tended to do was, almost as a power play physically, he would turn his back to someone. You know, the scene where Daniel comes in and sees Terry training, but he keeps his back to Daniel. Another moment when Daniel is laying into the dummy with the Quicksilver method, and he doesn't want to do it, Terry gets upset, and he basically says,
You want to get beaten because of a little pain, be my guest. I can't be a part of that. I make wimps into winners, not the other way around.
And he walks away and he turns his back to Daniel. And that's effective. It convinces Daniel to lay into the dummy. Also the moment when Daniel says,
Excuse me, Mr. Silver, you can't make me do something I don't want to do.
Terry Silver starts laughing and turns his back to Daniel.
Danny.
So it's interesting. It's like it's a sign of anger, disgust, or disrespect, or a power play. So I think that's very interesting that that physicality is used in this trailer. Another thing you'll notice is that in the trailer, you see his physicality, you see him roll his neck, which to me indicates that this is not someone who's gotten older and inactive. Terry Silver is still very active and an athlete. It's almost like he's stretching and warming up for a fight. So I would expect to see Terry Silver get physical and fight in the future in the Cobra Kai series.
Man can't stand, he can't fight.
Okay, so the lines we hear, the first 3 lines are the famous steps of the Quicksilver method. And we hear them, and the audio is from Karate Kid 3.
Man can't stand, he can't fight. A man can't breathe, he can't fight. A man can't see, he can't fight.
So what does this mean? This could be a callback to Karate Kid 3, so we know who this is. It's kind of like an indication of who this is, but this could also foreshadow season 4 or any future season where Terry Silver comes back and brings back the Quicksilver method or a new version of the Quicksilver method. So this promo might be directly indicating that we may see a return of the Quicksilver method. Regardless, it means that Terry has probably the most brutal philosophy of Cobra Kai, and we're going to probably see that going forward, not only against Terry's enemies, but also if Terry is training students, he'll probably teach this brutality.
Man can't stand, he can't fight. A man can't breathe, he can't fight. A man can't see, he can't fight.
Okay, so these first 3 lines from the Quicksilver method, the audio comes right from Karate Kid 3. So those are the lines we all know and love from the movie Karate Kid 3. There's a 4th line, and that is one of Terry's sayings.
Extreme situations require extreme measures.
Now this is interesting because this line is new. This recording of it is new. Not only is the audio quality better than the others, but the reading is different. So let me show you what I mean. So watch the old line in Karate Kid 3, and I want you to pay attention to the inflection of how the line is said, especially on the word measures. Okay, so we'll watch the clip from Karate Kid 3, and you'll notice the inflection goes up.
Extreme situations require extreme measures.
Okay, now let's listen to the new line. And you'll notice that when we get to measures, the inflection goes down.
Extreme situations require extreme measures.
So this is a newly recorded line, either just for this promo, for this teaser trailer, or this is a line that will appear in season 4 of Cobra Kai. Then we see that Terry turns his head and reveals himself just briefly. And really, this is what the character's all about. He's all about deception and manipulation, and at some point, he'll reveal himself to his enemies, his true nature. And he used very similar body language with his head turn when he revealed his true nature to Daniel.
Danny. From the moment you met me, I've been making you do things you didn't want to do.
What are you talking about?
What am I talking about?
Yeah, what?
He also did a similar head move after he had stormed out on Daniel to try and manipulate him into continuing to lay into that dummy. When he was standing back and listening to Daniel, he turned his head the same way. So, very iconic movement for Terry Silver. And so I would think this means that we're going to see some probably multiple reveals of Terry's true nature to different characters. So I'm looking forward to seeing that, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see that head move in the series as well. And then we hear a little bit of that Terry Silver theme from Bill Conti.
Extreme situations require extreme measures.
And it's such an iconic theme, and I really hope they continue to use that throughout the series, because it's the only villain theme that was composed by Bill Conti for all the Karate Kid movies. And then we see the text, "Now the real pain begins," which, if you've seen my previous video, What Terry Silver Wants, we know that one of the things that Terry Silver really wants in life is to cause pain to his enemies.
To experience pain.
Pain.
Now the real pain begins, Danny boy.
And so that seems to indicate that this season, if you are an enemy of Terry Silver, you are going to experience pain. So what do we know from looking at everything together? Well, it looks like Terry Silver in Cobra Kai going forward is going to be similar to what we saw in Karate Kid 3. He has a lot of those same characteristics. He is going to be in the shadows. He is going to be manipulative. He is going to love dishing out pain. He is athletic. He is rich. He has a sense of style. All of these things are coming together and look to be a great jumping off point for the character in Cobra Kai. What does this mean for the characters? Well, he loves to be deceptive, so I wouldn't be surprised if he used fake personas to try to ingratiate himself to people, to try and trick people. Maybe even hold back information from Kreese. I don't know. Depends how close they are. But I wouldn't be surprised if he knows more about Cobra Kai and what's been going on than Kreese is aware of. But at some point, I think you can look to see him reveal his true nature to various characters. It might be something that the characters realize after they've been hurt through his training, or maybe they have directly experienced pain meant in a malicious sense from him. The only thing I know for sure is that if you're Terry's enemy, you can expect to experience pain. And so whoever his enemies are, I'd say watch out this season. It's going to be interesting to watch. Please let me know what you think. Please leave comments. Let me know if there's something in this trailer that you saw that I missed. I want everyone's opinions. I love hearing what everyone says about all this, because we're all such great Terry Silver fans and we're really looking forward to this. It's happy days. Be sure to go check out my other videos if you haven't seen them, including my commercial for Dynatox. And I look forward to seeing you next time.
The pollution crisis facing our planet is nothing new. In 1974, business visionary and war veteran Terence Silver founded Dynatox. He dedicated his life to fighting the challenges posed by pollution and toxic waste, to preserve the American way of life. Terence Silver stood up to all enemies of the environment, whether adversaries abroad or corrupt bureaucracy at home. Under the guidance of Terence Silver, Dynatox became the industry leader, bringing thousands of jobs to Americans and people across the globe. Most of all, Dynatox has given us the gift of clean water, fertile land, and fresh air for generations to come. Dynatox. Paid for by Cole Associates for a Clean America.
This guy wants to break you, humiliate you, stomp you into the ground.
Now what are you gonna do about it?
If there's anything I think Terry Silver needs to be on is some kind of objective villain scale. He has so many qualities. He has so many great qualities and he has so many villainous qualities. And so, yeah, I'd love to see how he ranks up. I know that you guys have the scale. So you have like all these different categories and then you like numerically rate the character in each of these categories, right?
Yeah, I can give you a quick rundown for people that haven't heard our show, but we do this on every episode that we have that has a typical villain, right? And sometimes we even rank Storms. I think when we did the Day After Tomorrow, and it broke the scale.
Yeah.
But for our typical villain scale, we've got 4 major categories. It's really their look and their look or style. With their hideout and their lair. So look and style, I guess it's, do they have a ponytail? I mean, that's derivative from Terry Silver. Any accessories? What's their fashion like? Their hideout and their lair. So what are their accommodations? Do they have, some type of, fortress or something like that? What's their plan for domination is the next category. And then we talk a lot about their muscle or their henchman, or is there a sub boss, for example, like, when you think about Mortal Kombat, you've got Goro versus Shao Kahn. And then we invented recently a bonus category for ruthlessness, and it's a 1 to 5 scale. And then we add it up out of 20 basically. So, we typically will go through each category, and we can do that if you're open to it.
Well, let's do it. Let's do it for Terry Silver. All right, everyone, get ready. And then in the comments, guys, just put in like how you would rank Terry Silver in all these categories. This will be what we think, and then you just throw in what you think. So yes, let's do it.
I'll throw it to you guys. So I'll ask you both here. So for their look and their style, and you know what I'm going to say, so I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. So I'll ask you both what you think. But he's clearly got a ponytail. But what do you guys give him out of a 1 through 5 for that, and why? Is my question to you both.
I'll let Badway go first.
All right. Well, I was gonna defer to you, but that's fine. So first of all, I mean, it's in the description. Does this person have a ponytail? You check the box. Yes, that's automatic
that's
points.
Great.
So that's a 3 out of 5 already going in.
That's great.
I mean, and then you add to, I mean, making business deals in a bathtub. He made a bath towel look fashionable in the sauna. Holding business meetings, spouting off directives to a secretary in a hot tub. Wearing the ridiculous, black coat reminiscent of a Steven Seagal.
The bomber jacket.
Over the top silk karate gi, with big Cobra on the back. I mean, I don't want to give him a 5 because I don't want to give him a 20, but like if it warrants it, it warrants it overall. But I feel like I'm gonna at least give him a 4. I'll let Ken decide whether or not to give him a full 5.
I'm going to tell you guys right now, it's going to be a full 5 for me.
I'm good with that.
Because not only is he obsessed with style, you just see him, obviously he's sparring. When we first see him, he's sparring in a silk Cobra Kai gi. Like even his gi is like silk. And we see him in all these states. So we see him in a tux, we see him, in an ascot later, but
ascot. Yes. I forgot about the ascot.
So he has a great sense of style. Like he's into fashion. Like he knows what looks good. But in addition to that, he has a sense of fashion and style that's geared to manipulate people. I mean, he made his servants come up with a look to make him look poor, remember? To try and con Daniel. And he made them get a beater truck for him, and it's like, it's my so he has thing. Like such an awareness of style and presenting himself, not only to please himself, but to con other people, maybe more so than most any other movie villain. So I'd have to give him a 5.
Yeah. I'm not going to argue.
Yeah. You're right. The ascot was one thing, but then, the fact that, so he had a lineup of beater cars to choose from, and then he landed on that pickup or whatever the heck it was, and then when Daniel sees it, he goes, nice truck, man, nice truck!" Like he nailed it. Yeah. He nailed it.
Yeah, and how about the phone? He's got the old timey rotary style phone too. He's talking in the bathtub with the cigar. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
It was like golden. It was like it almost looked like something you could have gotten out of Buckingham Palace or something like that.
I absolutely say 5, and it sort of bleeds into the next category when you talk about his hideout and his lair, which is sort of has its own style. I mean, he's a fan of, I guess, Mayan architecture or something, right, in the hills. I don't know. I won't speak about the new one. We'll talk about the old movie. But what do you guys think about his hideout and his lair? And do you consider his dojos, all of the ones that he owns, part of that?
Oh, geez.
Yeah, the dojos are part of it, I believe. Ken, you want to start us off on this one? What do you think about a 1 to 5 scale for his layer or layers?
Okay. Yeah, speaking of Karate Kid 3, I mean, God, it's the Ennis house. Like, it's this landmark, historic, Maya-inspired temple, basically. Yeah. And it just has all of that, it ties right into his sense of fashion, and maybe the sense of how he sees himself. Maybe he sees himself as some kind of god or aristocrat.
I believe it.
And
Absolutely.
It's just, and when you see it in person, it's like, because of course I've seen it and driven by it. It's on purpose.
Any true fan would, right? Yeah.
Of course. If you see it, especially near like sunset, it's just gleaming. It's just outshines all the other structures like in the hills there.
That's awesome.
It's impressive. And I mean, I'm biased because I love the character, but I'd honestly have to give his lair a 5. Like, I love that lair. It's so tied to who he is. Now, so in the trailer, though, we see that at least what they've shown so far is right. It's like this Malibu type beach house. That's where Kreese goes to meet up with Terry Silver. And so I guess what we don't know yet is that his main house? Did he move out of, the Ennis house and go to that house? Or has he always had multiple residences and that's like his beachfront house? Because we don't know how rich he is. I always assumed he probably had multiple properties.
Yeah.
It's probably his Sunday house. It's probably just his Sunday house. Yeah. Yeah. You nailed it. Just the uniqueness to his sensibilities. They're like, you nailed it, godlike. He probably does see himself as some sort of god. I mean, even though as season 3 of Cobra Kai showed us that, I mean, he was definitely not that. At what they show in Vietnam, he kind of cultivated that personality over time, and in turn, and basically got himself a god complex. But I mean, you nailed everything about the house. But one little touch that I love about his house, and it's not really part of the structure. It's that when he's training, he doesn't train with dummies or punching bags. He has actual humans that he just beats the crap out of. That's his training.
Right.
we speculate that that's actually his limo driver in the podcast.
Oh, that's so funny. Well, actually, I'll amend. I would give him a 5, but just to appear objective. Maybe I'll reduce it to 4.5, just for that tub, because I can't imagine anyone of Terry's sense of self having a tub that's small. Like, that's a really small tub. So maybe I'll deduct half a point for the size of the tub.
You know what he needs? He needs, like, if you watch Last Action Hero, when the mob boss is like in the pool, like that should be his tub. He should have had an indoor swimming pool where he takes like a bath, and he's got like all his servants and people in there. He's in there just swimming in the pool. That should be his real bath, and then we could bump it to a 5.
Right, exactly.
It's like it's like Pee Wee, Francis, and he was taking a bath.
Exactly.
In the pool. Yeah.
Are we going? So are we going half score here? You guys want to go 4, or you want to go 5? Or you want to go in the
middle? Do you guys do just round it out to full numbers?
I'm just bad at math today, so it's up to you guys.
We'll go 4. We'll dock the point for the tub. We're very petty on the scale too. I'll dock a point just for the heck of it. So
he didn't have a pool. We'll go 4. You're right. What about their plan? So obviously, his plan is extremely diabolical. I'll turn it to both of you. I mean, maybe Ken, what do you think of the plan, because it's so outrageous?
Yeah, I mean, this one, it's going to be extremely hard for me not to give him like a 5 or even like a 6 on the scale, because his planning is just key to who he is, just his sense of control. He wants absolute control over every situation, and that involves controlling everyone in a room without them knowing it.
From the moment you met me, I've been making you do things you didn't want to do.
What are you talking about?
What am I talking about?
Yeah, what?
And he has so many different levels to his plans. And it's, I think I said this once before. It's almost like a 3D chess game that everyone doesn't know they're playing.
Oh, yeah.
But he's playing it, and he knows everything about everyone. And he has almost every outcome predetermined. Like, he knows what to do, and he's got everyone in a box. And just that level of control and thought is just, I don't think you normally see that on from any villain. Like he's just, yeah. Anyways, Bad Boy. What do you think?
Yeah, it's like I hate to belittle murder like we were doing earlier. He's almost worse than a murderer. I mean, he's talking about pain and suffering and humiliation, on the likes of which 80s villains have never seen.
True.
I mean, he's crazy.
And
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and all this stemmed from John Kreese just walking into his house, handing him the keys, saying, "I'm done here. Sorry, I failed," and he turned that failure into no. Not only are you not done, I'm going to avenge your failures.
Miyagi and that punk kid, I'm going to get them for what they did to you. They made you suffer. So I'm going to make them suffer and suffer and suffer. And when I think they've suffered enough, then I start with the pain.
Look, Terry, you don't have to do that.
Don't have to. I want to.
And that's where the plan formulated from. It's almost like he had weeks, if not months, to plan for this. Like it almost seemed predetermined. It was unprecedented how quickly this plan came together.
Like to see his best friend, his war buddy, roll into his Mayan temple looking like Ron Burgundy out of drinking out of a carton of milk. It's just it must have like cut him to his core. I mean, this guy saved his life, right? And he told him, anything you need in life, I got your back, man. And we didn't know that at the time when we did this, but how can you not, like, just supporting your friend to that degree? I mean, buying up every dojo in the entire like area.
The day you step off the plane, you're the biggest dojo operator in the valley.
What do you mean? What are you talking about?
I bought 20 locations today. Yours, 100%.
Like, he used all of his resources to scheme and plot, and you said it, Ken. He's like a chess master. He's like 10 steps ahead of everybody, and we joke about it, but I really don't think that there's 80s villains this smart, and it really hurts me to the core that he gets such a bad rap as like a comical, like ridiculous villain. Like he's actually written pretty well when you really step back and look at it. I'm a huge fan, so I'm biased obviously, but it's going to be hard not to give him a 5 here, right, guys? I mean, come on.
Yeah, and not to mention that, like, unlike most of our villain plans, this thing pretty much worked. Up until the very end, I mean, LaRusso ended up winning the tournament, and it was very, very unrealistic in my opinion. But that's okay. That's okay. I mean, the plan worked. I mean, he humiliated him. He got him to turn against his, Mr. Miyagi. Caused them very, very much pain and suffering. The thing worked, so we gotta give it.
We didn't even touch on the Mike Barnes subplot of this whole thing too, where he's, I mean,
we'll get
think
there.
about that,
We'll
like
get there.
part of the plan, right? So I don't know.
Yeah. We got Hitchman coming up.
I mean, I don't know what you guys think, but it has to be a 5. I'm sorry, it just has to. I can't. I got to overrule both of you unless you strongly disagree. But you want a 5 too.
I completely agree. I would give him a 5. Yeah.
No, we're going
like
5.
what about his henchmen, right? Because you could. We had a debate. Is Kreese actually his henchman? Is he Kreese's like? There's a very fine line of where the hierarchy lies, but obviously Mike Barnes, Karate's bad boy, is clearly a pretty formidable opponent for Daniel, obviously, right? I mean, and the plotting and the plan and the way that connected, he's got to get a really good score on this too. What do you guys think? Ken, what do you think?
Well, okay, so for henchmen, with Terry, how Terry sees himself, I think he sees everyone around him on his side as a henchman. I think he sees as a chess piece that he's moving. So really everyone in Terry's circle. John Kreese, probably Terry would think that John is there and to help him and make him feel better. So maybe he's not quite a henchman, at least in my opinion. But you've got Margaret, his secretary. You have Milos, his butler. Both of them seem to be very competent. They were able to get things for him immediately when he asked, whether it's the magazines, the martial arts magazines.
Yes, sir.
Where are the magazines I ordered?
Right here, sir.
Or the beater trucks, or the exact outfit that he needed, the petroleum deals, the Borneo, all that kind of stuff. That's taken care of. So they're great. I mean, we don't see them very much, but then Mike Barnes, of course, is probably the main henchman. You have like his kind of lackeys that have worked for him for a while. You have Snake and Dennis as well. So those are Terry's henchmen. Now, I don't know. It's interesting. Like they're mean and stuff. I guess they fulfill their role. They're kind of like, compared to Mike Barnes, I don't think they're as physically threatening. And it's actually kind of strange. Like initially, not Snake. Dennis is supposed to train Mike Barnes, But it's almost like Mike Barnes is like way better than Dennis. Daniel LaRusso beats Dennis right off the bat, you know. So I mean, they do what they're supposed to do. Mike Barnes is a great henchman. Like, he does everything perfectly. Like, for Terry, everything. The only time he flinched was at the end of the tournament. You know, that's it. You know, and he lost. He got distracted by kata. I guess, I don't know. But so I don't know. Maybe I would. You know, I might give him a 4 for henchman, just because I think Snake and Dennis aren't as strong as Mike Barnes and Milos and Margaret.
I agree with that. What do you think, Badway?
I love your distinction between lackey and henchman.
It's a very important one.
What would you call them, henchmen? Snake and Dennis, or lackeys?
No, they're lackeys. That's perfect. It's a perfect term. Yeah. Barnes is like a cyborg, man. Like, we go off on a whole tangent about Mike Barnes on our episode, and I feel like, you know, in the end, Silver almost got in his way. I mean, he would have dominated through that tournament had he not gotten LaRusso involved, or even had LaRusso joined the tournament without, like, the last ditch effort to use the kata at the end there. And very much an all-time bully. I mean, we go off on movie villains versus movie bullies, and very much a movie bully. So
I want to, Barnes is interesting to me, but besides Barnes, right? Ken, you mentioned some of the people that were helping him out. I want to talk about, what does his company leadership board look like? I mean, that's we got to give him credit. That's even off screen, right? He's got clearly some competent company leadership. He's able to step away from his company duties. Who's second in command here? Who's the chief operating officer, of Dynatox?
Right.
Yeah. And they're clearly running a media blitz. He's got good PR people. I mean, you made a commercial, Ken, which is amazing.
Right. Well, and I'll tell you something. Just and everyone here, Cobra Kai. That is honestly inspired by exactly what you're talking about. It's like, what about this business side of Terry Silver's company? What is he like? What's the corporate culture like? We don't get it, but we don't get into it too much. But that's kind of the inspiration. That's what I'd be intrigued to know about. Because we've all worked in jobs. Yeah. Like, what would it be like to have Terry Silver as your CEO?
Yeah, what's the town hall like when he's telling everybody about, holiday break and recharge for next year, all the stuff that he's talking about? Is he telling people that? Is he a good CEO? What's his Glassdoor rating? That's what I really want to know.
Right, exactly. Yes.
What kind of score is he getting?
Who's his right-hand man in the boardroom that went to jail for him when everything went down?
To tie it back to Barnes, you said it. I think, if you're going to say a guy gets distracted by a kata. Now, I've never fought in a karate tournament, so I can't say what would happen to me. I'd probably get distracted too. But if he's truly karate's bad boy, he probably shouldn't have gotten distracted by that, especially since it sort of happened in the first one too. I know it was the crane kick, but like, all of these things are interconnected. So I think maybe we do have to dock him a point, and I think the lackey is actually, he could have done a little bit better there. So I think maybe we shouldn't give him a 5 here with a perfect score, because there's some deficiencies there, but maybe the off-screen things that are good that we don't see.
Okay, I have to ask you guys this, since we're talking about that moment with Mike Barnes in the tournament.
Yeah.
Do you blame Mike Barnes more for that, or do you blame Terry Silver for that insane plan when Mike Barnes could have won at any moment throughout that whole thing, but Terry Silver dragged it out to sudden death?
Remember the game plan. First you win a point, then you lose a point. Keep the score 0-0. Pulverize him for the full 3 minutes. Then in sudden death, you get the point, we win. I want him to experience pain.
Like, do you place the blame on Terry or Mike Barnes, or equally on both?
Here's my perspective on it. I think I place the blame on Terry because I think he did overcomplicate the whole thing. But was it really about winning at all? If you really take a step back, yeah, they lost and they got a lifetime ban from the tournament until the events of Cobra Kai. But really, it did contribute to his plan because he was toying with Daniel. And yeah, I get it. In the end, Daniel still won, but it almost worked. So I can't knock him too much, I don't know. What do you think, Badway?
In actuality, though, was Daniel injured enough for Terry and John? And the answer was no. So I agree with you. I don't think the main idea was winning. I think he wanted him to go out in a body bag, you know, and I think that's what we're
they did
talking about
lose
here,
in the
you know?
end, and obviously that's crushing to someone of this man's stature's ego. I mean, clearly that's probably worse than not succeeding at other things, and to have this bruised ego when you do think of yourself as a god. Maybe he has paintings of himself like White Goodman from Dodgeball, where he's got him grabbing the bull by the horns. Who knows?
Yep.
I'd like to
That would
see
make
what
sense.
his artwork in his house looks like that we didn't see. You know, but no, I think you're right. I do think it was Terry's fault, though, to your point, because he toyed with him too much. But at the same time, I don't know that it mattered if he won. Maybe that's not fair. I don't know.
No, the job wasn't done yet because LaRusso wasn't at hospitalization level yet. So there was still work
man.
to be done.
It was a stretcher match.
So.
Net ladder, tables, ladders, and chairs.
I call it a 4 because if your main henchman to a high schooler is an upper echelon bully, then we're good.
Well, it's like was Mike Barnes in high school at that time too? I've got to be honest.
I'd like to see his birth certificate because I don't believe
it could have been one of those scenarios where it's like you're the guy in high school, you're scared as heck of this upperclassman or whatever, and maybe he's a college guy, so maybe that was intimidating enough. He's 1 year older, he's a freshman in college or something, right? I don't know. It was intimidating, but I agree with you. I think a 4 is probably mostly appropriate, unless you guys disagree.
I would back a 4. Yeah.
Okay. If I recap this for you guys. So actually we should stop. Do we want to give a bonus point for any category or ruthlessness at all? I'll throw it to you both. any bonus points warranted?
Yeah, I feel like a bonus point is definitely warranted just because of who he's fighting against, an elderly Mr. Miyagi and a high school student, which is, you know, the focus of his plan. Yeah.
Any villain who is going to concoct that scheme to make Daniel's knuckles bleed, to make a high school or recently graduated kid's knuckles bleed, I mean, that's pretty ruthless.
Yeah, I mean, the psychological trauma of that, it's going to be with and when Daniel talks about he doesn't like in the current seasons of Cobra Kai where he's like he doesn't like to talk about that.
I learned to strike first, strike hard, show no mercy.
You never told me about any of this.
It's not something I'm proud of, Sam.
That's total emotional abuse, and he's totally embarrassed by it. And this is why I love 3 so much. People look at it on surface level of, oh, it's a rehash of the first one, but it really isn't. And it is, but it isn't. And I feel like it went darker, and I just appreciate the movie because of where it went and because of how they took it up a notch. And I think that's what makes it so good. So, you know, I obviously am a huge fan, as you all know, but if I tie it back to the scale, so that means he got, if I recap for everybody, he had a 5 for a look and style, 4 for his hideout or his lair, and 5 for his plan, 4 for his henchman, minus a point there, and then he gets back a bonus point just for how overall diabolical he is and how ruthless. So he might be the highest, besides the Storm from The Day After Tomorrow in our podcast.
Tomorrow got a perfect score.
I think The Day After Tomorrow got a perfect score in our podcast. I think it was.
There's an asterisk. There's an asterisk on it, though.
The hideout, the layer of the Storm was the world. So it's, you know, how do you get better than that? But Terry gets a 19 out of 20, and I can't argue with that. And, you know, I don't think anyone would argue with that.
He's the reason why we thought of a villain scale. So yeah, it's only appropriate.
And I got to say, thank you, Ken, for letting us do that, because that was a lot of fun, man. I had fun.
This is amazing. Like, thank you for allowing me to participate in this villain scale, and also everyone in the comments. So hopefully, guys, let us know how you would rank Terry Silver in all of these categories in the comments. Terry Silver has returned in Cobra Kai Season 4 to dominate the Valley. And today, we're going to watch his scenes together. Hi, I'm Ken Cole, and if you're a fan of Cobra Kai and the Karate Kid, you've come to the right place for all kinds of news and updates, including Cobra Cole, a new comedy where I might be working for Terry Silver and try to get help from my cousin, played by David Shatraw, Tom Cole, on Cobra Kai. If you're a Cobra Kai fan, you won't want to miss Cobra Cole, and you can watch it right now. Okay, so today, I thought we should just sit down and watch Terry Silver's scenes together. I'm just going to pull up the scenes. We can watch them. I'm going to give you my thoughts, and then you let me know your thoughts in the comments. All right, so here we go. We're going to start with episode 1. Oh, Okay, I love that music. You know it's coming. It's someone who's very intelligent and talented in all of the fine arts, who dominates everything in the world. Oh, look at the great works of art, the opulent setting right by the ocean. This is the perfect introduction to Terry Silver. Oh my gosh. Yes. Oh, it's amazing. This is such a pitch perfect introduction to the character of Terry Silver. He looks like a piano virtuoso, a master composer. And the question is, what is he composing in his brain right now? Of course, he gets a phone call. It's an interesting place to leave your phone. I guess that makes sense. Unknown number.
Hello?
Hey.
Kreese. What's he going to do? Oh, hangs up on Kreese. Okay, so this is maybe the first hint. That's great. But this is the first hint that Terry Silver and John Kreese may not be the best of friends, which that was kind of the narrative a lot. You know, we heard a lot from Karate Kid 3 is, you know, the idea that Terry Silver was John Kreese's best friend, that he would be loyal to him to the end. And we can see right now that there's some tension. Something happened between them. And, you know, we don't know what that is. But clearly, if Terry's willing to hang up on Kreese, he's not necessarily going to be devoted to him for the rest of his life. So I think that's a really interesting thing to start season 4 on. All right, let's keep watching. Okay, a beautiful California coastline. Looks like this could be Silver's residence. There it is. Beautiful. Oh, there's John Kreese walking up. Kind of looks a little out of place. This almost looks like the first time Kreese has been here. It looks like Kreese has not been here before. Last time we saw Terry, he was in the Ennis house. So that's a question of where did he move here? When did he move here? I don't know. Oh, Terry Silver, the nice guy, helping out his staff. Oh, here we go. Look at those glasses. We've got those flashbacks to Karate Kid 3.
Never dies.
I love that. He loves the word ass. Ah. Okay, so just to pause here, he says, I'm not here to cause any trouble, which I think is really interesting because has Kreese caused trouble for him before? You know, it brings up an interesting thing. It seems like if he was his friend, is that what, made them kind of grow apart or never come back? Did Kreese cause trouble for Terry? I don't know.
For old times.
And look at this. Okay, we've got like this swank party. This is completely, look at Kreese. He's totally confused. He doesn't understand this. And who is this? This is completely a different Terry than Kreese knows. Okay. So now Kreese is very confused because it doesn't look like Terrence is the kind of guy who would get into a relationship maybe or get married. Is this something Kreese knows about Terry? This is completely out of character for Terry. Completely something he wouldn't expect.
Some hors d'oeuvres. Would you join us?
Oh, that would be splendid.
So Terry wanted Kreese out of there. He didn't want Kreese in here at all. But Kreese is inserting himself into this. Okay, so this is important to Terry somehow. He does not want Kreese to interfere. So, that just kind of like some thoughts on that scene. It looks like Terry has his life or his persona or his identity that's very different than what Kreese saw last. And so you wonder, is that because he doesn't want Kreese there, that he doesn't like Kreese, that Kreese pissed him off? Or is it something that Kreese is going to do something to Terry's world, going to maybe bring up something, bust his identity, burst his bubble, whatever this is. Nice cars right outside Terry's place. Nice pad. Oh, just the kind of food that Kreese doesn't like. He'd rather be at a diner, I think.
Just dip it in the cilantro cashew sauce. It's done.
See, Cheyenne's not Cobra Kai material, I don't think.
So, you and Terrence, you've known each other for a while?
50 years.
Okay.
We met in Nam.
So it really seems like, yeah, she doesn't know anything about this. So he has completely hidden this part of himself from her. And look, he's like upset that Kreese is bringing this up. So that's a question. Does something like this change? Like, does a person like Terry Silver change this much? Maybe. Okay, that's a nice slam toward. Look at Terry's expression. He just doesn't want Kreese there at all. Okay, so this is important. So I'm going to pause it. She's talking about the mindfulness app. So this is a launch party. So they're together. They have this relationship. Terry and Cheyenne have this relationship together. But is this a personal relationship? Is there something with the mindfulness app that's more business related or image related for Terry? We don't know what he's done since Dynatox and dumping toxic waste. But is this something where he's helping her because he's in a relationship and he likes her, he loves her, and he's supporting her? Or is he in the relationship with her because he wants something out of this app? There's some kind of benefit to him being associated with this mindfulness app from a philanthropy or something perspective. Education, I don't know.
Los Angeles, they don't teach mindfulness. So I figured, why not create an app where kids in places like...
I gotta love how she's like just slamming anyone who doesn't live in Los Angeles.
Terrence and I have a history of teaching children.
That's interesting. A history of teaching children. Because Terry, we never saw him teach before.
What was it called again? The Vipers?
Yeah. So he did bring something up. He told her a little bit about Cobra Kai briefly.
Karate is not a phase.
Yeah. So this is interesting. Kreese is bringing up this idea that it's a way of life. It's not a phase. Because in Karate Kid 3, when we first saw Terry Silver, he was a practicing martial artist. Like, he didn't give that up. I mean, he was years removed from the war. He didn't seem to have any interest in teaching at Cobra Kai, but he, in his mansion at the Ennis house, he was a practicing martial artist. It's interesting that he was keeping that up. That was part of his life, but he really wasn't interested in helping out at Cobra Kai. Or was that his gift to John Kreese, the dojo? That was something John could do. It's kind of interesting how John Kreese brought up this idea that he and Terry Silver taught children together. So did Terry start out teaching? Maybe a little bit. That's kind of interesting. But yes, Terry doesn't seem too happy here. Okay, so Kreese is still there. He's looking out over the ocean. Oh, I don't know. Kreese has been homeless for a while, apparently.
I guess you get what you
A subtle dig. You get what you pay for. And now Terry's expecting that Kreese is going to try to shake him down for money. I'm sure he has a history of doing that. Finish what they started 35 years ago. So that is after the 85 All Valley. Okay, so Kreese just left apparently. Okay, so Terry's basically like, I don't need to go back. I'm fine. So this is obviously a different Terry Silver. He should be kicking people, but he's not. He's completely doesn't seem to be practicing martial arts. Okay, and he's bringing up Vietnam again. So he's trying to bring Terry back to that person he knew. Back to when Kreese was his commander. Okay, so he's trying to bring Terry back, trying to get him committed to that idea, trying to make Terry feel like he's not following through on his commitments. It's interesting. What is Terry thinking right now? This is really out of the blue. Yeah.
Danny boy?
That was a very quick reaction. Danny boy, after 35 years. So he knows who Johnny Lawrence is. Terry knows who Johnny Lawrence is.
I need a partner. And the only other person.
So this is the big thing. This is the reveal. Why now? I'm sure Terry's like, why now? Finish what we started. I have to believe that someone like Terry Silver instantly knows this isn't about just finishing what they started. And he says no. You know, this has to be something more than just finishing what they started, because this is a very unique time for John Kreese to come back and just say, okay, we have to do it now after 35 years when we're old. I mean, what happened to all that time in the middle? But then, boom, Danny boy, Daniel LaRusso. So Terry knows that something's up. Okay, so he's going back to the 80s. So we're filling in Terry's story.
I was so hopped up on cocaine.
So he says he used cocaine, which would fit. It was the 80s. He was very rich. He says that his terrorizing Daniel LaRusso was pretty insane. but he's got a gleam in his eye. I don't know. So he says he hit rock bottom, and that's so interesting. Like, what happens to make Terry Silver hit rock bottom?
It was the best thing that ever happened to me.
And now he lays it back on Kreese that, like, when he left, it was the best thing that ever happened. Then Kreese brings up this old man thing, like, hey, you're not a regular old man, right? You want to be something special. Although, if you're that rich, is he really going off into the sunset? I mean, he's accomplished what most people want to accomplish.
Please thank Cheyenne for the tofu.
Okay. Man, he just slammed Terry on the tofu. Yeah. So I don't know about you. So that's kind of a diss. He got in Terry's head a bit. Obviously, we know from season 3 that Terry had bad experiences in Vietnam, that he does have some loyalty to Kreese. But I don't know. It's like, do you really think that Terry Silver doesn't understand that this is like a game or a manipulation from John Kreese to just show up out of the blue? It looks like he's very aware of what John Kreese is wanting him to do. That this is not about just teaching and bringing back Cobra Kai. It's about Daniel LaRusso and Johnny Lawrence. It seems like Terry gets that immediately. And I don't know. To me, what do you guys think? Let's keep going. Oh, we have Terry eating, or he's picking at his food. He's unsettled.
Would you be a darling?
Do you guys ever picture Terry Silver just being someone who goes to fetch the wine for his girlfriend? He doesn't look too happy about that. The wine. It's like, look at that wine. It's like perched on the boxes in a perfect way for what we'll see soon. Then he looks, Terry Silver, looking at that bottle of wine. Look at that ferocity at the Cayman wine. He's remembering the screenwriter that, yes, gave birth to Terry Silver. Look at that. Great kick. Look at him. He's back. You got that amazing Terry Silver theme composed by Bill Conti. Now look at that look in his eye, and look at that on the painting. Look at the wine coming down on the painting. And so I need to ask you guys, I don't know if you've seen the rest of the season or not yet, but just keep this in mind. You've seen what happened with Terry. Okay, so to me, Terry's in there. It didn't take long for him to change, or he changed his persona. He's made his decision at that point. So to me, it seems like Terry's there in full force. He's back. He's got a plan. I don't know though. So what do you think? Okay, so we've just finished episode 1. Those are the Terry scenes in episode 1. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know what you think of all this. If you enjoyed it, then we'll go through and do some more Terry Silver scenes. Be sure to check out my other stuff, Cobra Kai. If you're a Terry Silver fan, watch Cobra Kai. I think you'll really dig it, and I'll see you next time.
Let's see how good you really are.
Terry Silver is one of the all-time great movie villains. Intelligent, charming, manipulative, violent. In the Cobra Kai series, Daniel calls him a
psychopath.
But is Terry Silver really a psychopath? Today, we're going to use Dr. Robert Hare's criteria to see if Terry Silver is a clinical psychopath. And if he is, I'll go over what that means for his character from Karate Kid 3 to Cobra Kai Season 5 and beyond. I'm Ken Cole, and if you're a fan of Cobra Kai, The Karate Kid, or movies in general, you've come to the right place. As you may know, the character of Terry Silver is one of my all-time favorites, and I've made a number of videos about him, exploring what makes him tick, especially a video called What Terry Silver Wants. This is a follow-up to that video, and today we're going to dig deep into Terry's psychology, drilling to the core of Terry Silver with scientific research into a very real personality disorder called psychopathy. A diagnosed psychopath is not the same as someone who's, quote, psycho or psychotic. While serial killers are often psychopaths, the vast majority of psychopaths are not serial killers or scenery-chewing movie villains. It's estimated that at least 1 to 2% of the population could be psychopaths. That's about 1 out of every 50 people, and all of us will have at least one bad experience with a psychopath in our lives. And they pop up everywhere, from business to politics to bad romantic relationships. Some are verbal abusers, some are physical abusers, and often they're con artists. See where I'm going, Terry Silver fans?
Bet your ass.
Now, a disclaimer, I'm not a psychologist, so please don't use this video to diagnose a person in your life. If you feel like someone you know could be a psychopath, please contact a qualified professional who can help your situation. If you're interested in the topic of psychopaths, Dr. Robert Hare is one of the world's foremost experts, and I have a link to his book, Without Conscience, in the description. This book tells us how we can identify psychopaths in our lives, and we'll use it to analyze good old Terry Silver. If you buy the book with the link in the description, it'll help support my channel, so thank you. So what is a psychopath? The title of Dr. Hare's book puts it simply. A psychopath is a person without a conscience. They get gratification at someone else's expense, and they don't experience emotion the same way as everyone else. Now, this is different from someone who's, quote, crazy or insane or psycho. Psychopaths are not crazy. They're actually considered legally sane and can tell the difference between right and wrong. They just don't care. If you've heard the term sociopath, that's pretty much the same thing as a psychopath. Some famous real-life psychopaths are Ted Bundy, an intelligent and charming serial killer, Diane Downs, who killed her children to attract a man who didn't want kids, and Joe Hunt, a fast-talking swindler who set up schemes to con wealthy people out of money and was associated with 2 murders. Some examples of psychopaths in movies are Max Cady in Cape Fear, played by Robert De Niro.
Your mommy's not happy. And you know what? You're not happy. Are you?
No, I'm not.
You thought about me last night, didn't you?
Holly Sargis in Badlands, played by Sissy Spacek.
He wanted to die with me, and I dreamed of being lost forever in his arms. The whole time, the only thing I did wrong was throwing out my fish when he got sick. Later, I got a new one, but this incident kept on bothering me, and I turned to Kit.
And Gordon Gekko in Wall Street, played by Michael Douglas.
The point is, ladies and gentlemen, that greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Greed is right. Greed works.
As for Terry Silver, Daniel LaRusso, the former Karate Kid himself, calls Terry Silver a psychopath. In Season 4 of Cobra Kai, Terry Silver makes an unannounced visit to Daniel to apologize for his past behavior.
If I could go back and undo it all, I would. All I can say now is, I'm truly sorry.
Daniel calls Terry
a psychopath.
Later in the convenience store, Daniel calls him
You're a con man. Manipulating people to turn them into something that they're not.
So is Daniel right? Let's look at Dr. Hare's qualities of a psychopath. And remember, just 1 or 2 of these qualities isn't enough. You need to see most or all of these qualities together in one person, and then you might have a psychopath on your hands. Keep Terry Silver in mind as we go through these. Psychopaths are glib and superficial. Psychopaths are egocentric and grandiose. Psychopaths lack remorse and guilt, though they'll pretend to be sorry and give superficial apologies to manipulate people. Psychopaths lack empathy. Psychopaths are deceitful and manipulative. Psychopaths have shallow emotions. Psychopaths are impulsive. Psychopaths have poor behavioral controls. Psychopaths have a need for excitement. Psychopaths lack responsibility. Most psychopaths have early behavioral problems, and adult psychopaths exhibit antisocial behavior. Let me know in the comments how you think Terry Silver did. And we can go even deeper. Many psychopaths abuse drugs or alcohol. Though a chunk of psychopaths end up in jail, many intelligent and organized psychopaths are able to evade the law. They thrive in the business, political, financial, and legal professions. Because they have higher income and social status, their crimes are about stealing and conning people out of money, not so much about violence. Sometimes these are called successful psychopaths or subcriminal psychopaths. Also, interestingly, around the age of 40, some psychopaths can appear to change their ways. This is because they get burned out from their previous methods of excitement. While they seem not as bad anymore, deep down, they're the same. They've just gotten better at hiding their bad behavior and blending into society. So, is Terry Silver a psychopath? Let's start with the character as originally portrayed in Karate Kid 3 by the great Thomas Ian Griffith. As presented, this character is a textbook subcriminal psychopath.
He's glib, very well spoken, but often shallow and insincere.
You two training for the Olympics or something?
Just some tournament.
The one you won last year? What's it called?
It's the All Valley.
Right, good. Good for you. A champion should defend his title. John Kreese told me you had a lot of heart.
Oh, yeah?
He has a grandiose sense of himself, a would-be aristocrat, living in a Maya-inspired temple with a taste only for the finest cars and clothes. He shows zero remorse for anything, and when he apologizes to Miyagi, it's insincere and meant to manipulate.
Was this your student? The champion?
Yes.
Our apologies to you, too.
He has almost no concern for the emotions of anyone else. Even with Kreese, he lies about giving him 100% of the Cobra Kai dojos.
I bought 20 locations today. Yours, 100%.
Before turning around and promising 50% to a kid named Mike Barnes.
You got your 50%.
He's able to charm, manipulate, and deceive as easily as he breathes.
I'm opening the Cobra Kai dojo again. It's time to set things straight. Anytime you want to train, I'll be there for you.
His emotions are shallow and a bit erratic.
Yes!
Here are the dojo keys.
What are you talking about?
I'll pay you that back rent as soon as I can.
Screw the rent. What, do you think I bought that place for the rent? I bought it for you.
Mr. Silva?
What?
Plutonium deal?
He impulsively throws his important job as president of Dynatox Industries aside for weeks.
For the next few weeks, my business is strictly revenge.
Everything is in place, sir.
So he can have fun targeting a vulnerable kid and an old man. Though he's a controlled psychopath, he sometimes has poor behavioral control.
You think this is the end of it all, man? I'm gonna open Cobra Kai dojos all over this valley. Hell, I might even teach for free.
And goes a little over the top.
Hey, I like that. Oh, I like that, Johnny. I'm gonna use that.
Everything he does is for his own pleasure and excitement, doing illegal deals, sparring in his mansion, hatching plans, and even getting Daniel to punch a guy and run away. He's irresponsible, again dropping important company business, and breaking into someone's house when he's a company president and public figure. We don't really learn about any early behavioral problems in Karate Kid 3, though as an adult, he exhibits antisocial behavior by disregarding society's rules. He engages in the illegal activity of bribing officials,
Bribe him as usual.
dumping toxic waste, and he enjoys seeing kids physically beaten. There are many more examples, but the key is this. He knows the difference between right and wrong. He just doesn't care. So in Karate Kid 3, Terry's a psychopath. How about in the Cobra Kai series so far, starting with season 4? One important detail is that he's now past the age of 40, the age when a lot of psychopaths blend better into society and seem tamer. Cobra Kai Season 4 does present Terry more ambiguously than Karate Kid 3, though interpreting events in a certain way, he still exhibits a lot of psychopathic qualities. For example, his relationship with Cheyenne.
Terrence and I are enjoying the journey for now.
Taken at face value, Terry has moved on from his past and become a better person, a good boyfriend perhaps. But if he's a psychopath, he hasn't really changed. This outward tofu Terry image he created is all an act. Cheyenne may have thought she was with this great guy, but if Terry's a psychopath, deep down he doesn't feel love or devotion. He just outwardly acts like he does to get something. It could be sex, it could be excitement, or in Terry's case, he might want to be associated with Cheyenne's mindfulness app.
Terrence was kind enough to host the launch of my new mindfulness app.
If he's still building his goody-goody philanthropy image, you'll notice that shortly after the app launch party, Terry ghosts Cheyenne. She sends him tons of texts begging him to call her, but he doesn't care and just puts the phone down. This interpretation would point to Terry as a psychopath. When Terry goes to Miyagi-Do to apologize to Daniel,
My past behavior was inexcusable.
Again, we could take it at face value that he's a changed person, sincerely trying to apologize. If he's a psychopath, though, he would never be sorry for anything, and this would be a fake apology. You be the judge, though to me, he says the right words, but the apology rings hollow.
If I could go back and undo it all, I would.
Considering he shows up unannounced out of the blue with John Kreese at his side and purposely wearing the same style clothes, chain, and ponytail as in Karate Kid 3. He could have come by himself to apologize to Daniel as humble Tofu Terry at his house or dealership, but he didn't do that. In fact, he's practically intimidating Daniel into accepting his apology.
I'm truly sorry. And I assure you, I'm not that man anymore.
And clearly Daniel doesn't buy it.
But if you don't get off my property right now, I swear to God.
Insincere apologies intended to manipulate are straight from Psychopath 101. And Daniel's fiery response would bother Terry if he was a psychopath, because he'd perceive it as an insult, and Terry didn't win the confrontation. Other ambiguous things might include the backstory in Vietnam. Young Terry, or Twig, seems to show fear in extreme situations. But psychopaths don't actually experience fear, along with other emotions. However, Twig's outbursts do show poor behavioral control.
It's all my fault. Oh, God. Shut your goddamn mouth, Silver.
So if he's a psychopath, he could be acting scared because that's how he learned to get what he wanted growing up. Another possibility is that Terry's psychopathy didn't fully bloom until the horrific experiences of the Vietnam War. Though other Terry Silver moments are much more clear. Bribing officials, toying with Robbie, messing with Daniel's brain, reading Leviathan with secret ambitions, having a grandiose sense of self, and ambushing Johnny are all psychopathic. A psychopath would likely use drugs.
I was so hopped up on cocaine, revenge.
And would enjoy provoking Johnny by giving money to and making a pass at Shannon.
She is a special lady.
Listen to the speech Terry gives his students about caring what other people think.
What did we learn? Don't let your opponent think whatever they want. Make them think what you want them to think. If they think you're weak, that's when you can surprise them with your strength.
This lesson would be applauded by all con artists. What about the famous stingray scene?
I'll do anything, please.
In the first part of the scene, Terry drinks and talks to himself.
I prove my loyalty.
Taken on its face, it looks like Terry is emotionally tortured by what Kreese said.
You know, I thought you knew better than to question me.
But if Terry's a psychopath, he wouldn't feel shame, remorse, or guilt, or the emotional need to please John Kreese. He would, however, be bothered by perceived insults.
But you need to fall back in line and follow my lead.
And that he didn't win the contest of wills with John Kreese. So that part is up to your interpretation. Though the next part, where he beats up Stingray, I think we can all agree by now a psychopath would have no problem beating up Stingray impulsively, for fun, or because he wanted to get something out of it.
But you gotta do something for me.
Again, if Terry's a psychopath, he knows that society thinks beating up Stingray is wrong. Terry just doesn't care. And by calling the cops and pointing the finger at Kreese,
What did you do?
Hands behind your back.
Terry understands right from wrong. The whole sequence shows that he has no conscience and no desire to adhere to society's rules. So here's the key for the Cobra Kai series. If you interpret Terry as being sincerely changed in season 4, that he was a decent person in a solid relationship, that he felt guilty about the events of Karate Kid 3.
It sounds insane just talking about it.
Was sincere in his apology to Daniel.
I'm truly sorry.
That he felt personal devotion to Kreese.
I thought this is what you wanted.
And was emotionally affected by his put-downs.
You don't mind, do you? No, Captain.
Then you probably think he's less of a psychopath. However, if you think Tofu Terry was all for show, that he was leading Cheyenne on, that he was constantly deceiving and manipulating everyone around him, including John Kreese, that everything he did was for his own self-gratification and to fulfill his own grandiose sense of self, then you probably do think he's a psychopath. And if he's a psychopath, in season 5 and beyond, expect him to keep charming people, manipulating and deceiving. He'll only do things for his own self-gratification and will have no loyalty to anyone. He views himself as the most important person in the universe. He'll never be sorry, and he'll never do something because it's the right thing to do. In Karate Kid 3, when he said,
I've always lived my life by the rule, if you get, you give.
That was a lie, because if Terry Silver gets, he just wants to get more. And for me, that's the appeal of Terry Silver as a villain. He's entertaining because he uses all of these qualities to pull off master deceptions and become more powerful. I believe it's the qualities of a psychopath that actually keep Terry grounded and relatable as a character. All of us are going to deal with at least one psychopath in our lives, whether it's a boss, a lawyer, or a romantic interest. Terry Silver being a psychopath is a fascinating look at a problem in our society, how charismatic, intelligent, and dangerous con artists can threaten vulnerable and unsuspecting people. I think the character of Terry Silver is always more interesting when he sticks close to his psychopathic spine. And luckily, we have Ian Griffith to play all his nuances brilliantly. So I hope that in season 5 and beyond, Terry Silver's psychopathy, first seen in Karate Kid 3, is explored to all of its entertaining and thought-provoking potential. Do you think you've personally known a psychopath? Don't give us any names. Do you think Terry Silver is a psychopath? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoy Terry Silver, the next thing you should watch is Cobra Kai, my new comedy where I work for someone who might be Terry Silver and try to get help from my cousin, played by David Shatroff, Tom Cole on Cobra Kai. If you like Cobra Kai, you won't want to miss Cobra Kai, and you can check it out right now. See you next time. After the release of Cobra Kai Season 5, some fans are finding clues that Terry Silver could be dying. Could this be true? Today we'll look at the theory, we'll go over why it's totally wrong, and why I think Terry Silver will live way longer than anyone can imagine. Hi, I'm Ken Cole, and if you're a fan of Cobra Kai and Terry Silver, you're in the right place. And if you enjoy this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything going forward. Now, there's a theory going around that Terry Silver may be dying. I saw some of you comment about this on my videos and Twitter replies. There are great videos about this by Cobra Kai Theory and Strike First Media, which I recommend checking out, and we've received this question on our KenCast live stream. So today, I want to directly answer this question and tell you why Terry Silver is absolutely not dying and why the opposite is true. Before I begin, I'll admit I'm a Terry Silver fan, and I've supported his position over the years. People have accused me of working for the Big T, and if you're curious about that, be sure to watch Cobra Kai to get your answers. The bottom line is, it's important to realize that while fans have done a good job of putting these clues together, there is such a thing as anti-Terry Silver propaganda. Daniel himself was attempting an anti-Terry messaging campaign to defame him.
If people know this contract existed, Silver's reputation would be destroyed. They'd never let Cobra Kai compete again.
So just be aware that forces are at work to try and take down Terry. Okay, so let's directly address the points of this Terry is dying theory. The theory goes that Terry Silver is sick and dying. And the first clue is in season 4 when Terry has his traumatic flashback at breakfast. Terry has his pills there, and he says,
"Sorry, I think I'm gonna skip breakfast today."
And the servant says,
"Should I call the doctor?"
According to the theory, this is because Terry is sick and dying. Next, we see Terry in his bathroom, and he's taking the pills for what? We don't know, but according to the theory, it's because, you guessed it, he's sick and dying. Then in season 5, Terry tells Chosen that he's really focused on his legacy.
I never had any children. My only legacy is Cobra Kai.
Which is supposed to mean he's dying, I guess. The big scene that has people abuzz is at the beginning of season 5, episode 9, when Johnny and Carmen are in the hospital elevator. Then Terry shows up and talks about how important the next generation is.
Everything I do is for the future. Theirs and mine.
So according to the theory, Terry's at the hospital because, yep, he's dying. Then in the finale, when Chosen has Terry beaten, he's apparently not afraid to die and tells Chosen to do it. And according to the theory, he's not afraid to die because he's been dying for a long time already. So look, obviously not everyone likes Terry Silver, and a chunk of people would be happy for him to die, but I feel like I have to stick up for the guy. First, let's just do a reality check. Terry Silver is about John Kreese's age, which would be somewhere around 70 years old. I think we can all agree that Terry appears to be in fantastic shape for someone that age. Look at his energy level and his lethal fighting skills, and tell me another 70-year-old you know who could do anything close to what Terry does in Cobra Kai Season 5. And on top of that, Terry is a billionaire. Of course, I believe the Terry is dying theory is wrong. I actually believe the opposite. And I will tell you the truth in a few minutes, and it will blow your mind. But first, let's take a look at each of these points and knock them down. The first is the breakfast scene. Terry has pills at the table, but we have no clue what they're for. They could be for blood pressure, for knee pain, they could be antibiotics, and a lot of medications need to be taken with food. How many people do you know that are taking pills for a non-terminal illness? A lot, I bet. Even you maybe. And there's no reason to think that Terry taking pills would mean that he's dying. Then when Terry says,
"Sorry, I think I'm gonna skip breakfast today,"
the servant says,
"Should I call the doctor?"
No.
Let me point out that when season 4 came out, no one ever brought up this scene as evidence that Terry was terminally ill. And there's a good reason why. Rich people billionaires have servants that bend over backwards to take care of any little problem. We expect them to go overboard. Look at Milos and Margaret in Karate Kid 3, how they even anticipated Terry's needs.
Yes, sir? Where are the magazines I ordered?
Right here, sir.
Terry has a level of wealth that makes him like royalty. So if Terry had only coughed, the servant would have said the exact same thing. In fact, let's see how that would look.
Mr. Silver? Should I call the doctor?
See, Terry isn't dying. Servants just go overboard. They're very cautious for their very rich bosses. And what about all the talk of legacy?
My only legacy is Cobra Kai.
It's normal for people of all ages to think about the legacy they'll leave behind. And the right time to start building a legacy is well before you die. If you're already sick and dying, it might be too late to conquer the world. Also remember, every time Terry talks about his legacy,
my only legacy is Cobra Kai. What I'm offering you is legacy.
He's trying to persuade someone of something. So you have to take that with a grain of salt. And what about this famous elevator scene with Johnny and Carmen? Why is Terry in the hospital? Is he dying? Well, I hate to break it to the Terry haters, but there are so many other reasons why someone could be in the hospital. He could be visiting a doctor friend for lunch, or visiting a patient. Maybe something happened to Cheyenne. Also, Stingray was in the hospital, and maybe Terry's thanking the staff who took care of him. And remember that Terry is a billionaire philanthropist. Hospitals are a very popular recipient of charitable funds, so he could have been meeting with the hospital foundation about a major gift. The bottom line is that there's so many reasons for a rich guy to go to the hospital that do not involve dying. Also, Terry very clearly says that
everything I do is for the future. Theirs and mine.
If he was dying, he wouldn't be trying to do stuff for his future. So what about the end when Chosen has him pinned and Terry's not afraid to die? Is it because he's terminally ill? No. Listen to what Terry actually says.
I was meant to die on the battlefield.
It's clear that Terry hasn't been afraid to die since Vietnam. We saw that he was afraid in the POW camps, but obviously his war experience and training with Kim Sun-young changed his perspective. Death no longer scares Terry and hasn't for many decades. And I'd just like to point out that no terminally ill 70-year-old could beat Chosen in combat like Terry does, drunk or not. But now I'm going to share with you for the first time the truth about Terry Silver. You might want to sit down for this. I simply invite you to look at the evidence. Terry is a billionaire. He's taking mysterious pills. He's making hospital visits. He's extraordinarily fit and dangerous at 70+ years old. Everything points to the fact that Terry Silver is participating in a cutting-edge medical treatment to extend human life. That's right. Terry is going to live for another 70 years minimum. It all makes sense. Even as we speak, scientists around the world are researching gene therapy and organ regeneration to extend human life by hundreds, if not thousands of years. The first people who'd have access to these treatments would be the super wealthy like Terry Silver. With this in mind, let's see how everything fits together. First, at breakfast, Terry has a bottle of pills, but these are actually part of his life-extending treatment regimen. His servant gets concerned that Terry's not hungry and wants to call the doctor.
Should I call the doctor? No.
But the servant doesn't mean any old doctor. He means the lead researcher of his life extension therapy program. The servant knows that if this experimental treatment works, Terry could live for decades or centuries, meaning job security for him and his family for generations. So the servant's being extra cautious to make sure this life extension treatment is a success. How about when Terry takes those pills in the bathroom? Within minutes, Terry's mood changes. He smiles at himself and even appears to grow younger. That life-extending treatment is working, and Terry's got a lot of living to do. Whoa! All of Terry's legacy talk
Legacy.
is simply because he has many decades of life ahead of him, so he has time to start building his legacy today. And what about Terry showing up in the hospital? Radical life extension therapy would explain why Terry's in the hospital, to consult with lead researchers, to receive his treatment checkup, and secure funding for the procedure and the hospital. In the elevator, he says,
everything I do is for the future. Theirs and mine.
It's pretty clear he sees a long future ahead. Terry obviously displays uncommon energy and physical prowess for someone who's 70+ years old, probably due to advanced gene therapy. And Terry tells Chosen,
do it,
because he knows that this experimental medical treatment causes rapid cell and organ regeneration, and he likely wouldn't die even if Chosen struck. Terry's classic quote,
youth. The one thing money can't buy.
Shows us he's already tried to buy youth, but instead he's buying the next best thing. a long life. After all,
Say it, Cobra Kai. Never dies. Bet your ass.
so there you have it. Terry Silver is not dying. Instead, he's reaching for immortality, which makes his recent incarceration even more tragic. This is why I'm starting a movement to save Silver. If enough of us band together, we can see that true justice is done and Terry Silver is released from prison as soon as possible. After all, he still needs to establish his legacy. Be sure to use hashtag #SaveSilver on social media to show your support for our immortal Cobra Kai sensei. Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you enjoy this video, go ahead and hit like and subscribe so we can reach our goal of 25,000 subscribers. And if you're a fan of Terry Silver and Cobra Kai, the next thing you should watch is Cobra Cole, right here. See you next time. Terry Silver is in jail, and today we're going to hear from Cobra Kai legal experts about why he did nothing wrong and needs to be released immediately. I'm Ken Cole, and if you're a fan of Terry Silver and Cobra Kai, you're in the right place. On a recent live KenCast, we had a great discussion with Drew from Last Row Podcast and with Cobra Kai legal experts Badway and Mike from Cobra Kai Wisdom about why Terry Silver legally is not guilty of anything. You can watch the whole video right here, but right now I'm going to give you the highlights.
What did he actually do? Really, when you think about it, what did he actually do? What is the actual proof? And I don't think there's much. So I guess he beat up Stingray, but Stingray took it. He allowed that to happen. So that to me was almost it was a consensual beatdown. I mean, I guess he framed his friend for murder potentially, but it was, again, related to the consensual beatdown. So I don't know that that actually made really a legal crime there. And then he paid off a referee, allegedly, right? We didn't see the exchange of money. We saw the conversation, but we didn't see the exchange of money. And then he also paid off the referee for the Seikai Taikai qualifier. But is that even an official event? I mean, that's just something that he hosted at his own dojo. Isn't he allowed to do whatever he wanted to do there? And then, they allegedly said that he burned down Mike's furniture store. I'm on the record of saying I think that that electrical system was pretty old and probably should have been checked out. I don't think that was something that was done on purpose. I mean, who knows what happened there. And then, some would say that he paid off Stingray to keep quiet. Again, he accepted those gifts. Those were generous gifts from a sensei to his student. He allowed him to live in that nice apartment. He got him this really awesome car. What did he actually do that was illegal here?
Now, Badway, what are your thoughts?
First of all, I'd like to congratulate Drew for bringing up consensual beatdown. That's totally a legal term. And it's clearly what happened in that case. So I think we'll focus on Stingray first, and we'll go through these quickly. Stingray did agree to a consensual beatdown, even if it was after the fact while he was lying in the hospital bed. I mean, PS4s don't grow on trees, fellas. So it's a perfectly reasonable payment for a beatdown. Now, Mr. Stingray is very unreliable. It's clear that his opinions blow with the wind. So who can we trust there? And Mr. Silver's just an innocent man trying to teach kids karate. So it's unfortunate that Mr. Stingray didn't at first make the squad, quote unquote, and maybe he took it out on Mr. Kreese, and then Mr. Kreese took it too far. There's no proof, video evidence, I should say, that Mr. Silver had a hand in any of this. Some would say that there was video evidence and it was destroyed, but I mean, until you can provide said evidence, it's hearsay, fellows.
That's a private video system. You can do whatever you want with it, right? I mean, come on.
Right. If you want to talk about the bribery, I have two scenarios where the bribery could come into. First being unfair competition law of California. So the UCL states that a company may be accused of an unfair competition if its practices bait and switch marketing, manipulates prices, infringes on intellectual property, or performs another deceptive action against competitors that is prohibited under law. So there's that right there. Performs a deceptive action against competitors. Now, what is that? That is a misdemeanor, in which case he would owe, if found guilty, $2,500 per person acted upon.
Oh.
Even if he were to be found guilty of that, he's just going to have it's just a Tuesday for him, fellas.
Yeah, this is a Tuesday.
Right, get the checkbook out and get this thing over with, right? Now, there's also the commercial bribery law of California, which is Penal Code 641.3. which states that any law states that it is an offense when an employee takes a bribe from a person in exchange for using his or her employment position for the benefit of the other party. Now, this would be the interaction between him and the referee. So any business or practice which would cause an unfair as far as a competition goes, that is also a misdemeanor, punishable up to maximum 6 months in a non-state federal prison. So we're talking the slammer here. We're not talking the Fed. We're talking the slammer, in and out. I mean, Terry. This is the type of place where Terry could bribe a guard and get out. Before dinner. So.
Cobra Kai
So
says bad.
The bribery thing is cut down. We're done with the bribery. And anyway, once we get to court, whose word do we have? A girl who's of questionable merit and morality. She started a brawl in a mall and attacked a girl in a home.
They broke into LaRusso's home too.
Yes.
And the school.
I mean, it's all hearsay. Again, the word hearsay comes up a lot, and it's all it is, because Terry's not a dumb man. He covers his tracks.
Terry's a model citizen. He was trying to help underprivileged students and underprivileged children, get educated, right? He was giving away free karate lessons. He wanted to spread the Cobra Kai ways and teachings to better younger, people of the Valley. How can you pin that on him? He's trying to help people out. I mean, come on, it's absolutely hearsay.
And there's 3 legal defenses against this, by the way. It's defense could argue no corrupt intent, potential entrapment, or just plain out be falsely accused. He could, in fact, argue no corrupt intent if maybe he gave a tip to the referees in both tournaments just to make sure that you pay extra close attention, make sure nobody gets hurt, and everything's on the up and up, because he's afraid that the LaRussos are going to cheat.
Yeah. Okay, I think there was a comment about Daniel. He assaulted Daniel. That was on a piece of property that he owned. Daniel walked into that apartment that he was lending out to his good friend Stingray. That was his property. He was involved in that in his place. Doesn't he have a right to defend his property? Why is Daniel working in that place?
Glad you brought that up, because California has what we call the Castle Doctrine. Penal Code 198.5 states that under this law, residents are presumed to have a reasonable fear of death or great bodily injury if an intruder, Daniel LaRusso, forcibly enters their home. Therefore, it may be deemed a justifiable homicide if the resident kills or injures the intruder in self-defense.
Wow.
So we got to remember the Castle Doctrine, fellas.
Yeah.
And this not only applies to his home, in which was also broken into by Chosen and Mr. Lawrence, but also Stingray's property, which is owned by Mr. Silver, and also the fact that, yes, as your commenters did state here, Daniel struck first.
Yeah, this is beautiful. And Badway, I can't say how much of a help you are right now. You're clarifying things for us, because it's very easy to get emotionally involved with these people, right? But you lose sight of the law, right? And it seems like you're saying the law says that really Daniel and his friends were in the wrong. Terry was in the right. He knows what he's doing, and he had good intentions.
Mr. Silver, I mean, he even has the right to use, to bear arms in this case. He's not even, there are no gunplay involved. He's just using the fists and the feet and swords. I mean, to be honest, the swords, just to combat the risk of his life and the life of his guests in his home. This is a clear case of self-defense. Not to mention the trespass that happened on his dojo, which he then sprinted over to help his poor children students, whose lives were also in danger.
Because we didn't even get into those. I mean, we have to talk about what happened against him too. I don't want to jump the gun, but there's plenty that happened there against him. I mean, he's the victim here, if I'm being honest.
Can Mr. Silver be a little immoral sometimes? Sure. I mean, we can all say that. We love Mr. Silver, but he can be a little moral at times. But when it comes to, in a court of law, proving guilt on a crime, it's hard to pin this guy down. Let's be honest. I mean, he's got the best lawyers money can buy. He knows the law. He covers his bases. The man's not dumb, and he doesn't act on emotion either. Very calculated.
Yes. This is amazing. Yes, everyone who's a fan of Cobra Kai needs to be listening to this right now. I hope they're tuning in, or you're watching on the replay. You have to listen to this, because Badway speaks the truth. In my opinion, he speaks the truth. And you haven't been paid off in any way, Badway.
No, sir. No Terry Bucks over here. My palatial state speaks for itself from all my clients. My castle doctrine.
We have yet another person who might have an opinion that is going to join us. Cobra Kai Wisdom. Badway, you're welcome to stay, or if you got to go, I understand as well.
Unfortunately, I have other clients to tend to. I just wanted to bring light to this subject. I appreciate you bringing me on here to shed some light, and the legal expert that follows, I'm sure will more than generously take my place.
This is Mike, Cobra Kai Wisdom. Mike, thank you so much for joining us today. Now, you've caught us in a very deep legal discussion, and as I understand, you have a legal background yourself.
I do, yes. Let me give you my little speech first. I am not California barred. I'm not a criminal lawyer. Nothing I say tonight can be construed as actual legal advice.
And I know that if Terry were to hire you, you know, you'd give more specific advice. You're just giving just general thoughts tonight.
Absolutely. And we got to focus on what type of charge are we dealing with here? What is he actually going to be charged with? And how do we set our man free? Because that's the goal here. That's what we're putting our heads together to accomplish. According to the detective, all the charges against Terry Silver stem from Mr. Porter's testimony, his changed testimony, or his changed statement, that being one stingray. So based on that, it appears we're talking purely about the crimes committed against Mr. Stingray here. So while there may be some other allegations that, of course, are going to come down the road, people all of a sudden say, oh, yeah, he did this to me, too. He cheated me. He assaulted me. You know, it's going to be one of those, oh, well, where have you been all this time? You're saying he did this to you 35 years ago. He did this to you a month ago, and you never said anything until the brave Mr. Stingray comes, and now you're just trying to hop on the bandwagon. We've got a litany of charges, according to this detective. I can't fathom what this litany is, because it was just one night, one alleged incident, and it is what it is. So we've got a potential battery, allegations of a battery, which is a willful touching of another. You put your hands on another person, you have committed a battery. When we're talking about a battery that could rise to the level of a felony, in California, it's a battery that is not committed in self-defense, obviously, and results in a serious injury, fractured bones, damaged internal organs, near-death hospitalization, that type of thing. With all that said, and this surprised me, I just looked this up. The max penalty for a felony battery is only 2 to 4 years. So there's your California law for you. That all this, he could be just 4 summers at vacation prison, and Terry Silver's back in the dojo. That's it. That's the worst case scenario. That's what we're inclined to try to prevent. It is possible some young DA who's not familiar with the history of the relationship between the Silver family and the DA's office, probably never heard of a Willie Cole, might try to push this over to the level of an attempted murder, perhaps, that he was trying to kill Mr. Stingray, that he put him in the hospital, left him for dead. Ironically, the actual truth to this situation would be a defense to that when you're talking an attempted murder, the key is attempt, that you were trying to kill someone, but for some unforeseen circumstance outside of your control, you failed in your task. You wanted to kill him, but something prevented you from succeeding. The truth of what happened that night is a defense to attempted murder, which sounds insane. He did not want to kill Stingray. He needed Stingray. He very much needed Stingray to live through this ordeal so that he could blame Kreese, and Kreese would go to prison, get out of the way, and Terry Silver takes over the valley. So it's a risky move. But if they're inclined to go, well, you tried to kill the Stingray route, he comes up with the truth and say, no, I beat the ever-living shit out of him, but I didn't want to kill him. I needed him. I needed him to live so that he could wake up and tell the detective it was Sensei John Kreese, which is, in fact, the truth. So there goes your attempted murder. Now, in terms of defending against battery, we got a few possibilities here. Drew, I don't know if you were kidding earlier, but actually consent is a defense to battery.
Absolutely. I was dead
Which,
serious.
yes. So, yes, a person I can go up to and say, may I punch you in the face? And if the person responds, yes, you may. And you clarify, okay, but just so you know, I may break your jaw. I may cause broken teeth. I may cause serious injury. With that in mind, may I still punch you in the face? Absolutely, Mike. Please do. That is consent. You have consented to a battery, and that is a defense to the crime of battery. So that's one possibility. So the argument is there that, well, maybe, yeah, I punched him once or twice, and he was fine, which would be, a misdemeanor. Couple $100, no jail time. He's a first offender. He's never been in jail in his life. But after that, that's when we made the deal. May I continue to do this so that we can form this plan? You want to be in Cobra Kai? Here's the deal. I'm going to now wail on you, and you're going to blame John Kreese. Is that agreeable to you? He nods his head, says yes, and that's what happened. There's your defense to a felony. Wow. Consent. He consented to the thing. One or two punches, sure. After that, it was all part of the act, all part of the game. He was in on it the whole time. Couple other things. Accident. You could say it was all an accident. Stingray is the biggest klutz you've ever seen. We get all the other students say, oh yeah, he's total klutz. Terry Silver probably just, was training him and, he fell on his face. That old Stingray is such a goof.
That's a good
it's another possibility. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if Terry Silver tried a self-defense route. That Stingray comes in all hot and aggressive. He's been rejected from Cobra Kai, his home, and Kreese isn't there, so he takes it out on poor little Terry Silver, who was all by himself and was totally unprepared. And Stingray struck first. It was all him, this pillar of the community, similar to what he does to Daniel in season 5, fake and pretend to be an old man. And if none of that works, if none of that works, and Silver is still trying to come up with some defense, and he may not want to go there, but he can start going the route of his possible PTSD. Assault is it's what's called a specific intent. You have to not just prove that it happened, you have to prove the intent behind it. And if he can show that he did not act willfully, that he was not in control of his faculties at that moment in time, and bring in all kinds of psychologists and expert witnesses talking about his trauma from Vietnam, and John Kreese coming back into his life and him going off his medication. He was doing so well, and then Kreese comes back and bullies him, and he was off his meds. It's a possibility he could raise some diminished capacity, that he really wasn't in control that night, which could either get the charge completely off or get it reduced to show that he really was not in control that night. So a lot of possible defenses to work with. And then, of course, as my predecessor mentioned, we've got one witness in this whole case. One witness, Stingray Porter. Any defense attorney worth his salt is going to attack the hell out of this man's credibility, which probably should have been done in the first place at the first trial against John Kreese. But yeah, you've got this guy who woke up in a hospital bed, and his immediate reaction, as messed up in the head as he was to say John Kreese. That was his first reaction. John Kreese did this to me. He could barely move, but he was able to say it was John Kreese. He wouldn't do that unless it was the truth. He let this man go to prison, rot in prison, the same man who I understand has since escaped from prison. That guy, that's the guy who you initially, and then all of a sudden you change your mind and now say, no, it was this other sensei, Terry Silver, who you didn't even know, and who didn't even know you. They had no history together. They'd never spoken a word to each other at this point. And now all of a sudden you're switching gears because you found out John Kreese escaped from prison and is probably going to be mad at you. So you changed your story and instead, focused your attention on this pillar of the community, Terry Silver, who's been nothing but kind to you. You're just going to attack this man's credibility. You're going to bring in, his old neighbor to talk about what, his neighbor at his sister's house you know, what a loser he was when he was on probation. This guy had recently been on probation for beating up a bunch of kids in a school and lied about, you know, being a security guard to sneak into a high school and then beat the shit out of a bunch of kids. This is your star witness against Terry Silver. And the fact that, you know, even before that, he's just this big man baby who went to a dojo and trained with a bunch of teenagers, this 40-year-old man. And this is your star witness who's saying who assaulted him. It's not going to add up. And, you know, the goal here is to prove to a jury that this crime did not occur beyond a reasonable doubt.
So, Drew, let me throw this to you. You have just heard just an amazing wall of legal wisdom from Cobra Kai wisdom we have here, and then Bad Way as well. What is your reaction after listening to all this?
I think that Terry is innocent, and I feel like all the wrongdoings were actually against him. And he was provoked into some of these situations. He was minding his own business. He was just trying to spread his karate across the valley. And Daniel got up in his business. And Daniel was the one that inserted himself and had to be this white knight to say, I've got to stop this guy. Stop him from what? I don't think he did anything wrong. And I think, Mike, you nailed it. I think Badway nailed it too. I think Terry's innocent, and I think we need to get him out of jail right now.
So as you can see, Terry Silver being arrested is a serious legal injustice. This is why I'm starting a movement to save Silver. If enough of us band together, we can see that true justice is done and Terry Silver is released from prison as soon as possible. Be sure to use hashtag #SaveSilver on social media to show your support for our immortal Cobra Kai Sensei. Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you enjoy this video, go ahead and hit like and subscribe so we can reach our goal of 25,000 subscribers. And if you're a fan of Terry Silver and Cobra Kai, the next thing you should watch is Cobra Kai. See you next time.